Good morning. We'll go ahead and start our regular session of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors, also sitting as all special taxing district, March 24th, 2024, 9 a.m. Board members will attend either in person, by telephone, or remotely via electronic conferencing. We're all here. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Supervisor Ryan, could you please lead us?
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll move on to call to the public. Call to the public is held for the public benefit to allow individuals to address issues with the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona Statute 38-431.01H, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion or decision at a future date. Public comments may be made in person or submitted by email at publiccomments@yumacountyaz.gov. The email forms of public comments will be accepted until 8 a.m. the morning of the meeting. All public comments will be read out loud during the Yuma County Board of Supervisors meeting that starts at 9 a.m. Desiree, do we have any emails?
We do not.
And I have speaker forms for call to the public, but it's call to public is for anybody that wants to address the board. But I'll start with Jeff Brandt.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the Supervisors Council. Jeff Brand, Yuma Region Bicycle Coalition. I'm here today to thank the Public Works Department for the work that they did in helping to make the road safe for our 6th annual charity Toward the Fields ride. They helped to ensure that everybody had a safe and enjoyable event, that folks who came from out of town went back and knew that Yuma was a good place to ride. So I really want to thank Kelly Freikel, Craig Sargent, and the entire Public Works team for fixing the potholes on the routes that we were going to use in order to guarantee everybody's safety. So I just want to say thank you, and I just wanted you guys to know what they've done.
Thank you. Brent Palmer.
Good morning. Just wanted to be here to show my support for the Southwest Ag Tower Network. Just wanted to share with you guys that not only would it benefit the growers in the area, but it would also help our dealership. We rely on good, reliable connectivity at the machine itself, so we can help minimize downtime on the equipment. So, thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Anybody else from the public that wishes to address the board? And as I open items or we go through items, I'll give that opportunity to speak if we have on those items. I'll bring it back to the board and we'll go to presentations, proclamations, and appointments. Item number 1, Public Health Service District. Morning, Diane.
Good morning, Chairman Cortez, members of the board. Diana Gomez, Director of Public Health. Okay, so I wanted to come here, it's been a while, so I wanted to provide an overview of some of the services we provide and also answer some questions. So let's start with the beginning. So we have a vast array of different services, and a lot of people don't realize how diverse the programming is. They're used to our WIC program or the vaccination, but it's a pretty busy department. So overall awareness, I know there's been a lot of talk about federal funding and funding cuts. And so, in full transparency, that's always a concern. We have been very active seeking federal funding. To give perspective, when you look at, for example, CDC funding, 80% of that funding eventually makes it down to the local levels. And that's important for local health departments because it helps lift the burden from local municipalities. So we fill that gap. So in the district, we have services that are mandated, statutorily mandated, right? So in CRS, we have to provide X amount of basic health services. And then there's also all those other services that we provide that just enhance the health, wellness, and safety in the community. So, for example, your nutrition programs, your chronic disease management programs. So this is one of those programs that is, we're required to provide, and it's a very busy department. So the vital statistics department, so birth certificates, death certificates. We also provide a community health assessment, and I was here a few months ago to let you know how that went. A community health assessment basically evaluates what the emerging issues are in our community. So what the needs are, chronic disease level, and then once we identify that, and that is a broad coalition of stakeholders. So we have nonprofits, we have our clinical partners, we have people that are the front line in the community working to address these issues, whether it's affordable housing or chronic disease management or access to medical care. And then that information is taken, and then we work on the process that we're currently working on now, which is a community improvement process. And so that's when you get those same stakeholders back and you identify who those leaders are in those areas. So who should lead a particular initiative? So who are the people that are working on child health, maternal child health, mental health? And you identify those priorities and you start developing plans to work towards addressing that issue. And then we also have fatality review teams. We have child fatality review team, which is again a coalition. We have pediatrician, law enforcement, and staff internally that reviews deaths for any child under the death or age of 18. And so recommendations come from that. And then you have opioid fatality, again, self-explanatory. You review the deaths, and you also get an idea of what the near deaths were and the overdoses. And then suicide fatality, which unfortunately continues to be an issue. So I'll talk about some of the programming that we do that. Public health emergency and preparedness and response is probably one of the programs that the community is most familiar with. So the main function of that program is emergency readiness and response. They do a lot of tabletop exercises, and I know some of you have been to those, where we do mock scenarios. What happens if there's a power outage, right? The heat would obviously cause an issue. What if there's a train derailment? Those different scenarios. And again, that's a joint exercise between law enforcement, first responders, and again, the nonprofits. And I'm going to emphasize the nonprofits again because a lot of times they're behind the scenes working, but in any response, they're critical to filling those gaps that clinical care or public health or some of the other partners aren't able to meet. And then the new thing that we're starting again or building up is Medical Reserve Corps. And that is a group of people with health training, medical training that will help respond in situations where medical personnel or other first responders are busy. And so they will fill the gap. And then again, disease surveillance and resource allocation and support. And resource allocation was when during COVID, we worked with DEMA and we worked with the state and we were able to procure additional nurses, medical personnel, PPE, and all those and supplies for the hospital and for other clinical partners, schools, so that they can continue to operate and do what they do best, which is take care of our community. Community engagement. So there's a lot of things happening in the community. A lot of you are familiar with our community-wide immunization events. We're out there. We go to the schools. It's important to be able to make sure we eliminate those barriers to transportation. If people can't come to us, we work with the community. We've partnered with the different municipalities to set up in their community centers. We're out there still on Fridays early in the morning at 4 o'clock, making sure that farm workers are getting their vaccines, making sure that, the people in those rural communities, Dayton, they're awesome down in Dayton. They always really help us out, but making sure that those services are accessible. That couldn't happen if it weren't for those people putting that together. Cooling center coordination is another one that's really important. As you see the temperature rise, and we're starting to see those temperatures go in that direction, making sure that people are aware of different locations where they can go and they can cool off or get resources. We did a partnership with the library where people would come in and they were able to get water bottles, cooling towels, hats, sunscreen. So having those collaborative opportunities throughout the county, and those are available at all the libraries. Public safety events and distribution. And then because we are a border community, a lot of binational regional collaboration. We know that as a border community, we have people that go back and forth. We share the border, we share communities, families on both sides, workers on both sides. And so that regional collaboration and that binational collaboration is incredibly important to make sure that we keep our communities safe. And then environmental health and vector control. So people think of those as the food inspection, and they are incredibly busy. Last year, we had close to 2,300 inspections. So those were routine inspections where we went out, and mostly brick and mortar type inspections. So those were the food inspections, but we're also responsible for non-food inspections. So we inspect pools, we inspect other areas to make sure that they're safe. A lot of community education. You have the new cottage food law that was recently passed that allowed for more flexibility in creating and selling some of these foods. So there's been a lot of entrepreneurial interest. So that education is incredibly important. We want people to be successful from the very beginning. So our staff goes out there and they work with the vendors, and they want to make sure that they have all the information they need so that they can set up appropriately, get the proper tools that they need so that they can set up and make sure that what they're doing is safe for the community. And so we want to get upfront and do that in the very beginning rather than come back later and try to remedy those situations. But there's special events. There was close to 200 special events in the community. We're seeing more of those pop up. People are really embracing those, and so that's good. That just means busier time for our department. So we did about 200 of those. And then there's always those concerns and complaints that come in. So close to 250 of those last year. So a very, very, very busy department. And also academic partnerships and research. The other piece of environmental health is vector control, so our mosquito control. And so one of the things in that area is, again, we have to partner with the different agencies across the state to make sure we have a robust response. We're sharing information, but also academic research partnerships. So there's been a couple of research projects and also teaching opportunities. The value of academic partnerships is that you have your staff, you have the people at the academic side that are doing the research, they come back, or they collaborate, staff learns new techniques. The academics, people on their end get to be in the community and see how it's working. So it fills that gap where we might not have people with that particular expertise, and make sure that we're up and current on what we need to do and we stay abreast of the newest developments. So when those opportunities happen and those collaborative partnerships come through to the local level, there was two last year, one from the University of California and one ongoing with the University of Arizona. It allows for that continuing education to happen. So that's very important. Clinical services and epidemiology, probably what people are most familiar with. So tuberculosis screening and treatment, reproductive health, immunization clinics, HIV testing, case management, disease surveillance and communication. That is big for us. That's one of the things that likely is impacted by funding, just because a lot of the epi work, in order for it to be successful, it's important to have a robust network at home, which we do have, everybody does, but being able to share those across the state, across the country. And when somebody spots an emerging disease in Colorado and Texas, Maricopa, that information is shared rapidly so that there can be awareness at other levels. We know what to do. And then what we do is we reach out to the medical providers and we say, this is a new and emerging thing that we are seeing. We have reason to believe it'll eventually make its way here. Here are some things that you need to consider when you are treating patients. Here's some screening questions. And so that helps us identify issues before they become a problem. And of course, opioid education and resource coordination. Maternal child health, something that we're very passionate about, very important. Health Start is a program that does prenatal health and then follows moms up to 2 years. Incredible program that started it was the first one to use the promotora or community health worker model, and it started here in Yuma County, so we're really proud of that. That's still going strong. We have WIC, which is a nutritional supplement program. And that's important because it ensures that moms and infants and toddlers have access to nutritious education, which is important for everything else, right? Development and growth. We have home visitation programs. One of the ones that we have is where it used to be called neonatal intensive care, and it has a new acronym now, and I can't remember it, so I just call it the NICU program. But if your baby was in the NICU and has special there's special things that needs, concerns that you still have, we make sure we do discharge planning, and we visit those families to make sure that they feel confident taking care of their baby. Anybody that has ever had a baby in the NICU knows how scary that can be. So that is a way to make sure that parents feel empowered, they can answer any questions, or if we need to make sure they get connected to resources, that we do that. Car seats and home safety classes, those are still going strong, making sure that families know about those services, and then a lot of health and nutrition education. So youth leadership is another part that we don't get a lot of time to talk about, but we are actively involved and have been for many, many, many years in most of the school districts. And so it started with tobacco education, safety, prevention, training, but we're also moving into a lot of behavioral health. And this last year, they did several youth mental health trainings to just engage youth to be able to recognize those signs and be able to be an active participant, because a lot of times it's lecturing, but you want to create that engagement opportunity so that kids feel empowered to be able to recognize signs, to be able to intervene, and to be able to connect their peers to other resources. We have home safety classes, injury prevention in general, drowning prevention, water safety. And so one of the things that that program did last year was they were able to procure scholarships, swimming scholarships, and they partnered with the city of Yuma. And so kids were able to sign up to that and be able to attend swimming classes for free. So those are the kind of things that we normally don't get a chance to talk about, but are really, really important, happen behind the scenes. COVID testing, and again, heat resiliency and having those cooling centers. And we are working with on several projects with that, again, academic partnerships, making sure that we have resources and tools that people can use, where they can go for cooling centers, how to recognize the signs and symptoms of heat stroke, those kinds of things. Nutrition education and chronic disease. Body Walk just happened. We had about 1,300 kids go through that. If you haven't seen it, I highly encourage you to attend next year. It's a wonderful opportunity. Kids come in, they work their way through the mouth, they learn about healthy teeth, strong bones, your heart function, nutrition, and how it impacts your growth and development, and why it's important to access healthy food. We have tons of volunteers for that. It's a professional development opportunity for a lot of our healthcare students. So we have nursing students, medical assistant students that volunteer. We also have a lot of high school students that are working on their presentation skills and group facilitation, so that's wonderful. Our nutrition program has worked with food pantries, and they have gardening programs. They've set up several gardening projects in different housing complexes. Nutrition education, chronic disease management, so diabetes, hypertension, those are the things that we want you to understand how to treat, how to manage, so that you don't end up in the emergency room or with some other condition. Community health worker certification, and tons of community education, public service announcements. Mental health and wellness is something that we have talked a lot, and the need for it is we need more and more resources, and I think the community has made great strides, but we still need to keep moving forward and fill some gaps. We are responsible for Title 36, which is the screening and evaluation. Also, we deployed Credible Mind online wellness platform, which happened about 2 years ago. That is a website. It's called Credible Minds, and it is available in English and Spanish. You just click it. All the information on there is vetted. It's from reputable sources, and it provides self-assessments. It could be anonymous, or you can create an account, but information on anything behavioral health, from how to deal with anxiety to stress to depression. And then we have the ability to populate it with local resources if we want. So we can add, if we know that there's a support group or there's an agency that's offering something, we can put that in there. It's a one-stop shop for that, and it's free. It's free to anybody in Yuma County. HR has done a wonderful job of incorporating that into some of the employee wellness activities, and so they've been really supportive, but I just want people to know that's there. Suicide prevention training, again, that's the bystander training and recognizing those signs. We've done youth workshops. We're doing one for adults coming up in about 2 weeks, maybe? This week, okay, so this week. But those are the kind of things that are open to the community. Maternal child health screening and returning and referrals, bullying prevention and education, a lot of school-based programming in that area, resiliency training for healthcare providers and caregivers. That is huge. A lot of us in this age, we're in that gap where you still have kids, but then you have your parents or your grandparents. And so that is an emerging area where we see there's a lot of needs as an employer and as a community member, because it's important to support the people that are in that phase of their lives. And then again, supporting resources for chronic disease. And then the last thing is animal control. And so we, kenneling, we do the enforcement piece of the ordinance, and we manage the licensing piece now. That was something that the Humane Society used to do for us, but we took it over about a year and a half ago. So now we're doing the licensing in-house. We do animal welfare checks, general community education. The rabies control is big. People just think, okay, dogs, but bats, people think they're cute. We've done so many PSAs. Please don't pick them up. They don't like to be bathed. I don't care that they're dusty. I know they look cute. Please do not hide them to try to scare somebody. People have all sorts of reasons for touching them, but then we have to go ahead and get that back, get it tested, and it's just not worth it. So lots of really cute things, and it happens more often than not. So that's my PSA for don't touch the bats. But again, kenneling service by Humane Society. And so the other thing that we're really proud of is workforce development and community education. So staff professional development, everybody that works in our office has a professional development plan and get training specific to their area. So if you work in maternal child health, immunizations, and then there's that general health and knowledge. And we open those to the community. The other thing is the You Lead Leadership Program, which HR has a county-wide one. They partnered with us to do one specific for the health department because we had such great interest. And so that's kicked off. And so again, that will help with succession planning, with leadership development. And then, like I said, academic partnerships. We just hosted the University of Arizona College of Public Health on last week. And again, students that are interested in public health careers. But we also are a preceptor site, and we have opportunities for internships. And with those academic partnerships, we have Arizona Western College nursing students. We have the CNA students come by, and they have an opportunity to get hands-on education. And then we have all those community classes that I mentioned earlier. So partnership and resource sharing is important. And so when we talk about grants, when we try to procure those federal grants, and approximately, like I said, a lot of these programs that you saw were grant funded. And so we're always looking for a chance to enhance the programming that we offer without adding the burden to the local taxpayers. Grants are an excellent way to do that. But we also try to procure those funding opportunities and establish those academic partnerships. So we've done that a lot with the University of Arizona College of Public Health. Because it's so closely related. But we also work with local agencies, and one that we've worked with, very well with, and they do an awesome job, is Campesinos Sin Fronteras. So when we get funding, we're able to pass some of that funding down to either the academic institution who's doing research, or agencies, and Campesinos Sin Fronteras is just one example, who works with farm workers, and they do a lot of community outreach and education. So it's about being able to, have that resource, and I know it's very limited, but make sure you maximize it, but also share it with people that sometimes you're not the right lead for that particular project, and making sure you identify who is, and making sure that those funds travel down to the agency or the people that can do that work and do it, honestly, because they're the front line, more efficiently than you could if you try to set up shop and do it yourself. So that was the last of my slides, but if you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
Mr. Chair?
All right.
Diana, thank you. Thank you for all that you do and for all of your staff and what they do for our community. People have no idea how busy the health department is and all the things that they provide for our community. And there's a bill in the legislature about your sanitarian. So
Yes, sanitarians are hard to recruit.
yes, they are. And this will help allow them to be certified quicker. So.
Yes, yes, that would make Craig and I very happy.
Any other questions?
I just want, how would all this stuff, all this government reductions, how is it going to impact? Are this some of them grant-based programs? Are they at risk?
A lot of the community-based programming is grant funded. So about 52% of our operations is funded through the district funding, and the other half is roughly a combination of federal and state grants. So about 40% is federal grants, and again, those grants are the ones where you see all that community education, the outreach, a lot of the academic partnerships. WIC, for example, USDA funding, 100% federal funding, a lot of the maternal child health. It's mostly the maternal child health programs, and a lot of the chronic disease programs are federally funded. So it was concerning. We were, working as usual, and then we got a letter that said stop, and then we got a letter that 2 days later that said never mind. And so it's scary, but it's also scary to the partners we work with, right? Because the way federal and state pass-through grants work is you do the work and then you ask for reimbursement later. So the concern then is the liability. So we've already done all this work, and if we get something that says cease work now, then how are we going to pay, the people that already did the work? And if we have subcontractors that have worked on our behalf, it's paying those people. So right now, honestly, it's business as usual. We're going, we're just continuing to work. Things are stable for right now, but that is a concern and what that looks like. And again, it's the misinformation of what these federal grants fund and why, and where it comes. And so having any opportunity to have that discussion where you see at the local level, what exactly is this funding? Where does that pass through? Like WIC, for example. That whole program is essential. It's a nutrition supplemental program for pregnant women, for babies, for infants. And it makes such a critical issue when we have such a food insecurity problem across the country, but definitely here. We don't talk about food insecurity a lot here, but it is a problem here in Yuma County. That fills that gap. I can't imagine what would happen if that funding was gone. It would have a very devastating impact to our community. So I'm always in favor of having dialogue and answering questions. And I understand that sometimes transparency is important. And so that was a very long response to your question, but also immunization. But anyhow, it's one of those things where we will continue to provide these services. And we've been able to do it and reduce fees and that's going to change probably. I haven't come and asked for a fee increase for any service in a long time, because the other thing that these grants help us do is subsidize those fees so that it doesn't get passed down to the local level, so it doesn't get passed down to the community. So if those go away, either programming will have to shrink back, or some of these fees, which are minimal, will have to go up, or both. And that's just that's a very honest response. Probably not one wants to hear, but it's important. I will be back.
I think that all of us are concerned a little bit about the way that some of these messages are coming out, because one day it's nothing, and the next day it's what's available. The next day it's what's needed, and it's very confusing. So, because the county depends a lot on some of those grants. I mean, it's tough to plan at all, given the current situation. So I wonder, that's why I asked the question of what the county health department was based on. A lot of these programs are community programs that are grant funded, and grants are iffy, to say the least. So just have a plan B, because you're gonna need it.
I always have a plan B, but this is where I appreciate your support and you asking these questions, especially in a public forum, because it's important to have that, people sometimes don't understand what the impact is at a local level. You hear the news and it's a broad umbrella for anything, for any topic, any subject, but being able to hear how it affects the people here in the community is important. And so we always try to have a plan B. And again, that's where those collaborations and those partnerships work. Because sometimes, if you have the funding, you can work with somebody, or sometimes you can do resource sharing. But again, we don't want to be in a position where we have to, the people that we serve, we're the safety net. So it's people that already have limited access to resources, and have, maybe limited financial resources as well, or transportation. And so cutting back those services, again, is just an impact to the overall health in our community.
Any more questions?
Well, thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Moving on to consent calendar. The following items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion. Unless the board member so requests, in that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action.
Mr. Chairman.
I have items 1 through
Yeah, we had a lot of,
16 with an addendum item number 17 on the consent calendar. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. I'd like to approve items 1 through 16, pulling 17.
I like to pose 13 and 15, so if I could.
13,
15.
15, and 17.
17, I guess. There you go.
Okay.
What's yours?
So the motion will be approving all items, but taking out 13.
We only
15,
have
and
16.
17.
And 17.
There's a motion to approve item consent calendar with the 1 to 17 with the exception of 13, 15, and 17.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 13. And it's
Okay, I don't know if anybody's here from the Human Resources Department, but this is approving the proposed fiscal year 2025-26 Yuma County Employee Benefit Trust Medicare Plan. The increases are for option, PPO option, an increase of 33.3%, for PPOB, an increase of 15%, and high deductible health plan, an increase of 0%. Why is it here that soon? I mean, that's, the idea for me was to distribute that increase between the different departments. Why is it just, I understand that different programs, different plans have different costs, and that we're trying to get people to move into the high deductible plans and so forth. But I'm not sure that this is the policy I would follow. So why is it being recommended now in March when, we need to know this by, say, July the 1st?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Carla Vasquez, Benefits Manager, here to answer any questions or concerns. I'm sorry if I missed that one. We kind of ran it.
Okay. Well, okay. The question is, okay, I'm a member of the Benefit Trust, and I was hoping that we were to get a chance to discuss how we can sort of like absorb some of the costs in some of the other programs. The way that this is being recommended, one of the programs is 0, the other one is 15%, and the other one is 33%. The idea for me would be to sort of mix them up a little bit so that the increase is kind of even throughout. Why is it so soon?
Thank you so much for your question. So on the presentation that we have from Siegel, if I take you to page 6, for this year, we really have been considering how the plans are running. That page 6 really truly shows you the recommendation that we had from Siegel was originally to increase PPO option A by a 52.5%. And that is because that plan is the one that is causing the need to be increased the most. So for this year, we went back and forth with YCBT, and in February, we presented to the Board of Supervisors with Siegel. Just for this year, making sure that each plan is gaining enough contributions as well to be a maintainable process throughout the year, because Plan A has been running at a deficit for multiple years, which is probably the main reason that it's causing an increase needed for the full fund. So looking at this, our PPO option A on page 6 would need a 52.5% increase to receive enough contributions to pay for the claims that it's receiving. Our Plan B would need a 3.5 increase and our high deductible is being recommended to lower the cost. Now, with discussions, we feel that that high deductible health plan, it wouldn't meet the goal to decrease the cost of the high deductible health plan, but we decided to move forward with presenting the option to keep high deductible at the same a zero increase instead of lowering that cost, and dividing that shift between A and B, which are causing the deficit.
Let me go back to this. The fact to me that we have always all those options makes it a difficult thing to do, because people will choose the low deductible plans thinking, well, it's low deductible, right? But that means that other people in the higher deductible plans will suffer the consequences. In this particular case, a lot of people don't choose the high deductible. Therefore, that's the most usable plan, the cheaper plan. So to me, we need to make a decision, the benefit trust team, to simply have one plan and not let people choose, because when you let people choose at different times, different things. When they're younger, they're all going to choose the low deductible because they feel, well, I'm not going to have a health issue. But when you're older and you choose the high deductible one, it makes sure. I guess my point is, look, why don't we should at some particular point, I'd like to take a look at what happens when we don't give people these cafeteria choices, because what happens is people choose what's cheaper for them instead of thinking of the program itself. They think of themselves. And when people are younger, we need them to move to a high deductible plan. They won't do it. I mean, there's no potential damage to them. So although I can see that we did shift a little bit of the cost so that it evens up a little bit, I still don't think that. I think that the main issue, the root of cause of this particular case, is because we have so many different plans. People can choose their plan that fits their needs at the time that they choose, as opposed to fit the needs of the whole plan. So, and the other question that I had was, why is it here so soon? I mean, is it because you need to solidify it for the budget? Is that what it's?
Yes, so we did start the conversation in January. That was the first time we presented our numbers and the need to increase the total funding of 19%. And then February, we did the Board of Supervisors, and then now we're here to get it approved. Our open enrollment needs to start April 1st, so we are in a time crunch, and our effective fiscal year is July 1st. I can tell you that right now, looking through Siegel and all of our options, this was the best option that we could consider, but we are already looking forward to see how this will play out. And we plan to make bigger changes for next year if we need to reduce a plan, or now once we see where employees are going to end up and pick that, we'll have a whole year to plan for next year and maybe cut down on the plans if we find that to be the need.
Okay, I understand the strategy, but I think it's strategy. I think we need to take some action to make sure that it isn't just strategy, that people understand that choosing the way they're choosing right now is creating an unbalanced plan, where the one that we want to promote is the one that nobody wants to use, because obviously it's not the one that everybody thinks is going to be better for themselves. I like to just use the opportunity to tell people, look, if you choose for yourself, what you're creating is an imbalance for the whole system. You need to understand this is a system. And at some particular point in time, we've got to stop giving people that many options, so that essentially what we have is a high, the one we like people to get on. It's not being chosen by as many people as we think. So this is to me a sort of a strategy to get them to move a little. But the best strategy would be not to give them the option, to me. That I'll bring it up at the benefit team concept, and I know that you got to do a lot of planning. And 33%, while it's not the 52% that they started with, still 33% increase on the policy for people that use it that way. It could be a driver, but I think that the best driver would be just simply getting away from the cafeteria plan and just having one plan and one plan, 2 plans at the most, so people will understand that whatever the choice they've made that choice now, and that's what's creating this.
And I think this gives us a great opportunity to just educate more on the plans. I honestly haven't met somebody who has transferred to the high deductible health plan and hasn't loved it once they see what
once
that
they
plan
see.
does.
Right.
So more education and letting them know how, the maximum out of pocket on both A and B are exactly the same. So worst case scenario, someone's going through cancer, therapy, lots of other medical concerns. they will pay less on that high deductible health plan. So there's a benefit for not only the employees, but for our YCBT to consider that plan.
Well, it's an educational moment that I think needs to be addressed as an educational moment, but it's also a choice that we make as board of supervisors at the end. And we're making the choice right now to increase 33% one of the plans, and as a way to drive people to the plan that we'd like them to go to, but that means that people have chosen to stay at the high deductible plan. With the one that we try to get them to go to, it's now going to be facing a very large increase because it shows for the plan, well, for themselves and the plan. And it may be something they don't understand yet. People who don't choose that don't understand yet. And it's because they have a choice.
Right, and Plan A, we do see overusage on claims, and that really is the main reason why that one is being increased the most. Just the big deficit that it's running at. That's the main
I'm familiar
consideration.
with it. I just wanted to take the opportunity to say one or two things. One, this is a choice that the benefit trust team needs to make eventually. Are we going to offer that cafeteria plan? Are we going to sacrifice one group because of the other one's choices? And that to me is not how a good plan should work. A good plan should offer the best that it can, and that's it. We shouldn't give people a choice. People, when they have choices, I mean, the choice should be made by us as a cost factor. It's very difficult for me to see how we do that when we allow such high increases for some of the programs themselves. But
So how about next time, or the committee gives a recommendation based on.
this is the recommendation.
How many times you,
We meet once a month, every 2 months at the latest,
okay.
depending on how busy it is. I saw this coming, but I didn't think it was gonna be this early. I was hoping that I could make that point to the team themselves, but I'm making it in general. People need to understand that a good program is one that benefits everybody, not just myself, not just my family, but everybody. And that's going to happen if it keeps coming up with deficits this high in the program that we choose. Keeps coming up with deficits this high. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Carla.
Any other questions for Carmen?
I'll make a motion, we approve the benefit plan.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second to approve item 13 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 15,
I
engineering.
also asked this one. This one is the abandonment at 10 feet. No, it's very, it's not for you guys. The abandonment of 10 feet on the existing 50-foot right of way along 48th Street. Between Scottsdale and Fortuna Road. Is it wise to abandon this right? Are we gonna abandon them to the homeowners in the same area? Because abandoning right away, especially when it's like main thoroughfares, it doesn't seem like a good policy to me. Eventually you're gonna need it if you abandon it now.
Yeah.
You abandon it to somebody. Wouldn't it be difficult later on to try to get that right away?
Chairman Porches, members of the board, generally speaking, yes, that's a good statement, Supervisor Reyes. In this case, there's an existing 50-foot both on Fortuna and 48th Street. That property is being developed. There's a subdivision going in there. They're not abandoning the entire 50 feet. All they're doing is abandoning 10 feet. Because based on the subdivision regulations, if you can't extend a road for more than 3 miles, then you're allowed to reduce the right-of-way width or the pavement profile of that roadway. So essentially, instead of an arterial roadway, Fortuna Road being an arterial roadway, it's going to be a major collector because you can't go south into the bombing range. It dead ends at the bombing range. So essentially what they're doing is they're just reducing the right-of-way width from 50 feet down to 40 feet.
And 48th Street can't go all the way through because of the solar farms that are out there.
Exactly.
What we're saying is, look, we're not gonna be ever build that up to a 5-lane or whatever, so why would we like to keep that 10 feet?
Why have the
That
50 feet?
abandonment is done by what, by us or by the developer?
No, it's existing right-of-way, so we'd have to abandon the 10 feet. They're going to use the other 40 feet to develop the roadways.
Which way do we abandon in the side that, is it residential on both sides? Or is it just one side?
It's all one big parcel.
You okay with that?
I'm fine with it.
Okay, well, if you're fine with it, I'm fine with it. I just wonder why we were abandoned right away when those things become very well traveled, and then people start complaining, well, you know, they were collectors, there's so much traffic and we can't handle it because it's only 3 lanes.
Because it'll only go into that subdivision.
That's right.
Yeah,
So it
stops.
dead ends into the,
It dead ends at the bottom range.
it's less than 3 miles long. So that meets it's less than 3 miles long. It meets the requirements for abandonment and allow the developers to process what they have.
So it allows us to reduce the
That's a road.
the type of road from arterial to a major collector. So we don't need the 50, we only need 40.
Okay. If you're okay with it, I'll make a motion, we go ahead and approve item number 15 as presented.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to approve item 15 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item, the regular addendum number 1, item 17.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to pull that to modify the motion, and I can do that now or after discussion.
Well, since I believe there's a
We have a number
lot
of people.
of people here that wanted to talk on this item. So I'll open it up to, or are we gonna hear? No, they're gonna sit down. But I'll open it up to discussion for the call of any of.
Thank you,
Maggie.
Mr. Chairman. Maggie Castro, Planning and Zoning Director. Somebody forgot their glasses. In case they're missing them.
You should have held on to him.
Are you sure you're in the right path?
I wear them around my neck.
Mr. Chairman, this is the discussion concerning the zoning violation and
No,
No,
no.
no,
Wait a minute, you
we're
got
on
the
an
full
addendum.
idea.
You're jumping
We're
ahead one.
lucky.
Oh, we're not at the discussion item, we're in the
You're
the
lucky,
addendum
Maggie.
item. Number seven. I think you need to describe what we're talking about. We're talking
So
about
this,
the-
this is for the change order for the
Towers.
towers, contract with EX2 Technology LLC.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that, from the public that wishes to address the board on this item?
No farmers want to address this issue. I mean, it's all being done because of you.
Well, the existing motion says, County Administration, Mr. Chairman, approve change order number 24-156-COR 002 to the contract with EX Squared Technology LLC in the amount of $1,684,849.07 to meet specification revision and engineering materials requirements and design. Authorize the county administrator to sign the contract amendment subject to legal review. So I want to, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'd take a second and just talk about how we arrived at this point in time. A few years ago, because of challenges in our cellular coverage here in Yuma County, a number of people from the agricultural community expressed a concern. Mark Smith, among others, held meetings with a lot of our providers, asking them to modify their service so that we had additional services, as was mentioned previously, directly to the agricultural areas. Just shortly before Governor Ducey left office, I went and sat down with he and his budget team and described some of our challenges that we have in Yuma County, especially the rural agricultural challenges and the lack of coverage. We were able to, before he left office, scrape together the rest of the ARPA funds and convey those funds to the county. Subsequently, those funds were clawed back by Governor Hobbs. We then had the opportunity to sit down with her, describe the challenges. Not only did she restore those funds, but gave us $1 million on top of that, specifically to build this broadband mesh network to serve the agricultural community. We've engaged and we've tried to move forward, and yet we've had some challenges. And I wanted to pull this to modify the motion and have the opportunity to hear from the agricultural community as well.
Mr. Chairman, before we go into this, the funds to go to this change order are going to come from the state?
It came from ARPA. They were conveyed by Governor Ducey first, clawed back. And then once Governor Hobbs understood this, she not only restored the funds, but gave us $1 million on top of the original funds.
So we're looking at 7 million instead of 6?
Yeah.
Right. I just want to make sure that we can fund it.
Oh, yeah, it's
Oh,
all,
the money's there.
it's all within that.
Money's there.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Mark Smith with Smith Farms. Also been involved in this broadband project since its inception. So back up a little bit. So when we started this broadband project to bring services to all of Yuma County, and this wisdom of this board allocated an original $21 million to start that project. And I remember talking to Supervisor Reyes, and he says, well, what's our ROI on this? What's our rate of return for that investment? And we conveyed to him the rate of return is the growth in businesses in Yuma County, and for all of Yuma County to attempt get access to broadband. And I think that goal has been mostly achieved with our partner with ALLO. I think San Luis, who had 40% of the population had zero connectivity when we started this project, is now getting hooked up to broadband. People have never had those services before, as well a lot of other Yuma County. So with that original $21 million, we were able then to go to the state. Jeff Sabaka, who was the previous director of broadband for the state, and secure some additional money, and that additional $10 million for our phase 2. And then ALLO matched $10 million additional grant from the state, and they got another $10 million. And then we were allocated $7 million for the wireless project. So that brings the total of $47 million. And then ALLO has put between $100 and $120 million of capital into the community of private funds. So we have somewhere in the neighborhood between $160 and $180 million invested in our community, with an original $21 million investment by this board. That is an achievement that no one else has been able to accomplish in this country. So you guys need to be proud of that. And what it's accomplishing is bringing opportunity to Yuma. There are businesses moving here now. You're probably aware of them. Don't really want to name them because I don't know if they're public. So we've gone through years without much growth. Maricopa County is the fastest growing county in the nation, and we got none of that. Today, we're getting some of that. What's changed? We now have a broadband system. That has led us to the agriculture system. Agriculture is obviously the #1 industry in this community. It's we're the third largest county GDP for agriculture in the nation. It's a $4.4 billion ag economy, and that
U of A just updated that mark to 5.2.
All right, 5.2. You got newer information than I do. It shows the importance of our agriculture to this community and to this nation. So agriculture is going through a paradigm shift. So we have a very technological advanced agriculture here. It's a very capital intensive industry. This broadband system, this wireless system, is critical to our industry. I think looking at this room, people sitting here, I think they probably have over $6-8 million worth of current equipment they're buying right now for this technology, and it's not available. They were counting on this, and it's not available. We have to move forward in this. This is critical to our industry. Again, this was awarded to us by Governor Ducey. It was reaffirmed by Governor Hobbs, strongly supported by former Senator Kristen Sinema, strongly supported by Senator Kelly, strongly supported by Senator Gallego, strongly supported by Senator Tim Dunn, State Senator, and Senator Brian Fernandez. All our elected officials are strongly support this. This was given to agriculture to continue to improve its water efficiency and its technology. That's why it was awarded to us. And I know there's people out here that don't think this is a proper use of this money. This money was allocated to agriculture through Yuma County for us. It is not their decision to decide whether this is a good use. The people in charge, the policymakers, have decided this was a very good use. We are getting national recognition for this. We are getting global recognition for this. And we've had this money allocated to us for over 2 years, to build a tower system. And we have not started on that yet. And that's important. My concern level on a scale of 1 to 10 is an 11. We cannot continue to drag this project on. If it's not, we want it done right, but if you can't get the paperwork done right in 2 years, we need to ask ourselves what's the problem and solve that problem. We need to move forward with this project, and we just need to figure out how to move forward. This is the easy part. This is so simple. You're putting a tower on a concrete pedestal and an electrical box, and that's about it. And we can't achieve that goal. So we need to ask ourselves, what is the problem? And we need to solve that problem. But this is critical to us. This is critical to our industry. This tower system is like an opportunity magnet. I see at our Yuma Center of Excellence, we are overwhelmed with people who have interest to come here. RDO just pointed out the importance to them. John Deere, these companies have interest. We are getting global interest. These are jobs. These are opportunities. This is technology bringing to this community. This is what we wanted to achieve, and we're achieving it. But we need some help here. We have to figure out how to move this process forward. And anyone that's not supportive of this is the broadband project has been the supervisor's #1 goal. We need to reaffirm that with the people that are working on this. This goes to the top of their list. This time is of the essence for us at this point. This has been delayed long enough. The costs continue to go up. It'll be harder to get people to put these services in as they move to when they leave out of here. It's harder to get them back. So we have this opportunity. We are nationally recognized for this. And it's a really good thing to be nationally recognized for something that's good, because we don't always get that. So let's take advantage of that. Let's solve this problem, and let's move forward, because this is hugely beneficial to Yuma County. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Well, just a comment, Mick. I mean, welcome to the, Mark, I mean, Mark, welcome to the club. I always said that it takes way too long to do anything in the government, but I've been, what have I been here like more than 10 years now? It feels like 20 now. I mean, it's just, look, I don't think there's any, to me, there's no issues about where the money's going to go and how it's going to get done. I think that what took a long time is that all this planning about where the towers were going to go. And now that I think this item is about increasing the number of towers. I think we started with 27, I think, and now we're at 34. Mm-hmm. And so this amendment is to cover those extra 7 towers that have to be installed, so that the system is really operational, and operational, I mean well operated, so that it covers everything. So it's not a matter of us delaying it, it's a matter of the design of the system coming up a little different than we originally thought. So this is, to me, it's a no-brainer. I like to move forward. I like to move forward. I like to still be here when it gets done, but you know, who knows that? Who knows that now? Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, we need to move on. We need to move on and move on quickly. I know there's some issues out there that are through, but none of these issues are more important than delivering the project to us. Yeah. I mean, personally, I remember when this building on the other side was like 12, 13 million bucks. Now it's 60, and it's barely on its way. So I feel you, but Mark, welcome to the slowness of government.
And I understand government. We work in government also. Every one of us, work with government. We work with reclamation. We have districts. They are governmental entities. So we understand that. But some of the things that have delayed this, it's not necessary to delay it. And we just need to work harder at that, and we need to move forward. And we don't have the time to,
especially you and I, Mark,
have unnecessary excuses.
Yeah.
We fully understand what's required to go through a government process, and we understand that well. And so we know some of this is not warranted. So we want your support for this, but we want to also, there are a lot of other things that have to follow this. The additional extensions from Tacna to Roll and Lagoon Dam Road, and then additional extensions to some of the towers. Those are all processes that have to take place. And we just need to make sure those are at the top of the importance list. So, because you can get the sticks put in the air, the towers put up, but if you don't get it connected, you're still in the same box. So again, time is of the essence for us. And so we very much appreciate your support to do this, and to make sure this is reiterated to everyone, this is still a #1 priority for the county and for our industry.
Well, Mr. Chairman, too, like he was saying, we committed this money back years ago to this project. We need to make sure everybody understands this is our priority, period. If it's not yours, get out of the way. Don't hold it up, because it's held up too long. Anything that comes in as far as into a county office or whatever, it needs to go to the top of the pile, period. Nothing needs to take precedence more than this right now. Because like I said, it's not going to do anything to get more expensive.
Well, if everybody's making comment, the economic development that will be generated by these towers will help Yuma grow and provide jobs that will keep our kids right here in Yuma.
I have a saying that goes, quit while you're ahead. I think you guys are ahead. You need to quit so you can vote.
Let's go.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Tanya.
May I? Mr. Chairman and all the members, on behalf of YCETA, I just want to share and reiterate the importance of these, especially as it relates to the attraction of new industry. That is what we're hearing. I mean, literally, I am having to push away companies that are coming not only from within our country, but other countries, because they know that we are the laboratory for the climate future. The world is getting hotter and drier, and how we farm is the whole world is looking at us. And the goal is not only to help ourselves, but to set the standards for the world so that we can attract companies in. They can do their testing here. They can see how we farm. They can use their equipment. And then they can also expand Arizona, expand other dry places in the country, or expand globally across the world. So again, thank you, and please move forward with this.
Will you introduce yourself?
Tanya Hodges, Executive Director for YCETA, the Yuma Center of Excellence for Desert Agriculture.
Thank you, Tanya.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to modify the motion. Approve change order number 24-156-COR002 to the contract with EX2 Squared Technology, LLC, in the amount of $1,684,849.07 to meet specification revision of engineering materials and requirements in design, and B, authorize the county administrator to sign the change order, period.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to approve item 17 with the modifications. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Let's get it done.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate your support.
Bill.
As I mentioned to you before the meeting, our office received the addendum as was attached to the agenda Friday afternoon about 4:50. We've not had a chance to review it. We do have legal concerns about the content of the addendum 1. And as I mentioned to you before the meeting, I suggested you go into executive session so we could discuss those issues with you. Leave it.
No, there was a motion was made to approve item 17 and modified. Moving on to discussion and action items. The board will open each of the following items separately for discussion and action as appropriate. We'll move on to item number 1, Development Services Planning and Zoning Division, presentation concerning the zoning violations and abatement process.
This is yours, Maggie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maggie Castro, Planning and Zoning Director. So would you like a presentation, or do you want to start discussion on the zoning violation process?
What is there to discuss? I mean, how fast can you do it based on this?
I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. It's just a general discussion about the process, the enabling legislation concerning the violation process and the hearing officer process.
So what does it all mean? What does it mean to you? I mean, look, I think it's understood that what we want to do is process as fast as we can those issues that are like neighborhood where they have a problem. Instead of taking a couple of years, we'd like it to take it a couple of 3, 5 months. What is it right now the legal impediment that you have?
Sorry, I think
I'm asking, is there something in there that we haven't thought of that you would bring out in a hearing like this, where you have some statutory limitations in this? Is that what you're saying?
No, Mr. Chairman, the way the current process works is when staff receives a violation, the property owner is sent a courtesy notice of violation um, to notify them of the violation and then how to rectify it. And then they're given also 15 days to bring the property into compliance. If the property is not brought into compliance, once that 15-day time limit lapses or passes, then the case is referred to the hearing officer. There are cases or properties that are brought into compliance during the first round of being cited. Those are the ones that probably take more than the average time to process a zoning violation. The air form submitted indicates that during the past 5 years, 23.5 of the cases are resolved by notifying them through the courtesy notice of violation. 52% are resolved before the first hearing, and then 65% are resolved by the second hearing, with 86% being resolved within the 6 months of the citation being issued.
A question, Mr. Chairman, before you move on. The courtesy notice, is it a legal notice that goes out and says, hey, you got a problem here, you got to solve it? Or is it just a courtesy? Because it sounds to me like a courtesy notice is not really very high on the implementation rate, with 23.5% of the people saying, okay, I'll fix it. Are we skipping a step where we should just simply say there's a violation and you need to address it now?
Mr. Chairman, there was a time where the process was changed to where the courtesy notice of violation was eliminated. So if a property owner was cited for a zoning violation, they were sent, the first notice they got was a notice to appear before the hearing officer. Back in around 2017, 2018, there was a committee that was formed, the Planning and Zoning Commission Subcommittee, and staff was asked to make changes to the way zoning violations are processed. And that is why we, again, instituted the notification to property owners. The first notice is a courtesy notice of violation. And then, once again, if the property is not brought into compliance, then they are referred to the hearing officer. The next notice would be a notice to appear before the hearing officer.
So, according to what you're giving us, 87% is resolved within 6 months, which means that the ones left are the tough cases, the cases that we have to send for abatement, that we have to actually take through the court system, most of them anyway.
Right.
Is there any way that we can just simply say 6 months, and if it's not fixed, it goes to abatement process without having it all come back to us? Or is it a case-by-case basis?
Mr. Chairman, again, when cases are referred to the county attorney for abatement, we were asked to, before we send them to the hearing officer, to the county attorney, to bring them before this board to recommend referral to the hearing officer, to the county attorney's office.
Yeah, I don't.
Because there was a specific case where staff, once it went through the hearing officer process, we sent it to it was sent to the hearing officer, keep saying hearing officer, we sent it to the county attorney's office, and we were asked not to ever do that again.
Wow.
Is it me? I don't remember that. I don't remember y'all being the case. I think maybe the vice chair.
Very general.
No.
I will not.
Look,
I won't say
what happens
names.
is I don't understand why the whole crux of this whole meeting or the whole hearing here that we're having is how can we speed up the process, getting some of these abatement
That's
processes
right.
done. And I guess getting us out of the way would be one way, getting it out of the way of us. We asked for it to come back to us?
Before it gets sent to the county attorney, yes.
Is that by statute or is it just to show you that?
No,
It's preference of the board at the time.
I don't know who was it. Who was at the board at the
Well, that's for the
time?
minutes.
Maybe we need to revisit that. The idea is, how can we process this
I
really
think,
quick?
honestly, I think it's just when it gets to the hearing officer, and they give him an opportunity, well, okay, or pay the fine, or we'll give you 10 more days, or,
Yeah.
am I right? It goes, they extend that time.
Well, they
They
have,
do
it two, it goes before the hearing officer twice.
Mhm.
Is
The
the,
first and second hearing. Yeah.
Chairman, the way that, again, the hearing officer process works is the first hearing is the hearing on complaint. That is the first hearing that a defendant has to appear at. Then, if the property is not in compliance at the first hearing, the hearing officer will schedule a compliance hearing, generally around, depending on the severity of the violation, generally either 30 to 60 to 90 days uh, for a compliance hearing. If the property is not brought into compliance at the time of the compliance hearing, which is the second hearing, then the hearing officer does have the option of scheduling another compliance hearing, a second compliance hearing, again within 30, 60 to 90 days. There is a maximum of 180 days from the first compliance hearing to the second compliance hearing.
108.
180 days.
6
6
months.
months. Yes.
Yeah.
Is that by statute or is that by choice?
No, again, that was a time limit that was made to the zoning ordinance as a result of the hearing, the Planning and Zoning Commission's subcommittee recommendations.
I, for one, would like to shorten that.
I
If
would
you
too.
If you can bring it to us in a shorter time frame, you'd be fine, because 180 days is a long time to fix anything.
Like I said, Mr. Chairman, just pointing out the how long it takes to resolve zoning violations, 87% are resolved within 6 months. I think what takes the longest is probably the abatement process once it gets into the court system.
And there's no way to shorten that. I mean, once it gets into the court system, it's a court system. It's when they have a chance to hear it, when, whatever.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if you say it should take 90 days. If they decide, if the court system decides they're going to take longer, they will take longer. Right?
Right. We were also processing, before referral to the county attorney's office, staff was taking violations through the hearing officer process twice before bringing them to this board for recommendation to the county attorney. We are no longer doing that. If a property is not brought into compliance during the first go around, then, and like I said, depending on the severity and nature of the violation, we will come before you to recommend referral to the county attorney's office once, or during the first hearing officer process.
So obviously there's very minimal a very small percentage that don't, they take a long time. So how can we speed up those? I mean, obviously you've seen enough cases where you know which ones. So how can we shorten those ones without, penalizing everybody else that does it, on a timely basis?
That does the abatement or does the cleanup the way. it's
Once again,
supposed
Mr. Chairman, I think possibly just processing those cases to the hearing officer once and then referring them to the county attorney's office may shorten the process.
Okay.
to. Can we do that? Can you?
Yes.
Okay.
So from us today, you don't require action today, huh?
No.
Just
General
it's
discussion about the
okay.
process, the length of the process, and
Yeah, I think staff knows which ones are, the ones that are gonna take long, and I think if you acting fast on those, then I don't think there's no need to punish others that do them on a timely manner, so. Will that work?
Yep.
I know Maggie puts up with me a lot because I call her on a lot of places, but, I understand that, the process
It was
takes a
him,
little
right?
longer. I'll admit, I get a lot of calls, but, I kind of put myself in the people that live around these places' shoes, and I wouldn't want some of these places next to me. They're trash, they're auto parts, and it causes problems with mice and whatever. It's just something that's got to be dealt with somehow sooner or quicker than sometimes the process allows, but.
But when I see that chart that you put in here, you put in two charts, I go like, oh, wait a minute, this is government at work for sure. The flow charts, it's really the complaint process flow chart, the hearing officer process flow chart. And then we have one, you should have one that said the board of supervisor flow chart. Because when it gets to us, it becomes an issue. I don't see any gain on bringing it to us to have it on an open public meeting, because all it does is highlight the fact that these people haven't solved the problem. Maybe maybe the public shaming will work, but I don't think it does.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just personally, I don't think bringing it before you to recommend referral to the county attorney's office lengthens the process. It's a matter of just bringing the case before you and getting a recommendation to send it to the county attorney.
What would you recommend to shorten the process? Anything? You think we're doing fast enough?
Just taking those cases through the hearing officer once, and then if the property is not brought into compliance, then they can be brought before you to recommend referral to the hearing officer. In the past, we were processing cases twice through the hearing officer process before referring them to the county attorney.
Well, we're gonna increase his salary. I just mentioned that. We just approved doubling it per hour, so. I mean, I think it's very, very interestingly expensive to draw these people all the way through those processes with the hearing officer being paid $100 an hour, which is what they, by statute, from what I read. So.
The hearing officer meets once a month, and generally the hearings take no
If I
more
read
than
that
2
correctly,
hours.
we appointed two people. One of them happened to have been the John Smith, who is an attorney. I don't, that's nothing derogatory about attorneys. Bill is not here, so nothing derogatory about attorneys, but they tend to make the process a little longer because they think of every possible outcome that's negative. So I'm just saying that. So you suggest what? Getting rid of the courtesy notice? Is that what you're saying, or just doing it the way we're doing it and just trying to make sure that it gets all done within a year's time frame? Once we put it in court.
I'll write it next time. I'll just go ahead, Maggie.
We're going to
Again, Mr.
shorten.
Chairman, taking cases through the hearing officer once before referral to the county attorney's office may short the process.
It won't come to us.
It will come to you. That doesn't, like I said, it doesn't create an additional, a significant amount of
Instead of taking it.
time to bring it before you before we refer to the county attorney's office.
Well, but let me just say this, Maggie, because sometimes the agenda, you got to have certain things on the agenda before. So if it happens, let's say today, or I don't know what day does the hearing officer meet?
First Thursday of the month.
First Thursday of the month. So that one, you're not gonna have it on the agenda on the second agenda of the meeting of our.
The first agenda.
It's gonna be till the next month meeting.
The first meeting the next month.
So that's, it's a month, but like Mr. Simmons said, people that live, the neighbors, a whole month it's kind of like, it just makes it look like or in that case, all of us, the whole it's not doing anything. We just heard a while ago that government takes so long, and this is,
An example.
we're not trying to speed up, or we're trying to speed up the process, but by doing this, it just makes it longer for those people that are around there, the neighbors. So it doesn't need to come to us.
It's not in statute that it comes to you.
Okay.
So if that is the board's preference, that cases are referred directly to the county attorney's office, we can change the process.
So that way, if it's the first Thursday, by Friday, it goes to the county attorney's office. Pretty much the latest Monday. I think that eliminates at least, a month. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
I'm good.
Yes.
Do we need a motion? Let's have Tony make that motion.
No, I'm not gonna make that motion.
Discussed.
There's no action required on this. I've taken your direction.
The next one is
Can
the
make
presentation.
changes to the process.
Thank you.
You're going to do a presentation, an actual PowerPoint presentation.
And Tony loves PowerPoint.
The next item says,
And just to bring this up, I know, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but is there any public outreach out there? Don't be, hurting stuff and, because you're gonna go
Hurting,
through
yeah.
this case. So either letting people know or at least the neighbors, as soon as they start seeing some piles, at least the county or, you guys take a look at it and you decide, see if it is something that's gonna get bigger, or become a problem, or, but letting people know, because, I don't know if they're, I haven't heard anything about,
Well,
public outreach to, and I know there's very few that do it, but.
yeah, we call it a courtesy note.
Mr. Chairman, too, we have that fund that we set aside to deal with these problem residences, where if we have to go in and clean them up. And I think if we do that a couple of times, the word would get out that, okay, we got to get this cleaned up, or the county's going to come in and clean it. And whether we bill them or put a lien on their property or whatever, for us having to come in and deal with the issue, I think if we did that a few times, it would
Ooh, yeah.
change people's thinking.
But I think that it does have to go through the county
Yeah.
attorneys, yeah.
I'm just saying, though, that fund we established there, that money's there, and it may come to that. But I think if we did, it would wake some people up.
And maybe we'll get some coverage. That's what we need.
Well,
And I wanted, Maggie,
Nothing else.
thank you for putting up with me, because like I said, I know
Yeah, thank you for putting up with him.
I'm always calling her or sending her an email or something.
it's okay, Maggie, there, yes, Magnolia areas.
Thank you, Maggie.
Getting all clogged up again.
He's giving the presentation of the planning and zoning.
Oh, I think that's correct.
Item number
It's great.
2,
Where is he? Oh, there he is. Behind that.
review and approve the planning and zoning annual report for calendar year 2024.
Yeah, I thought Maggie was going to do that.
That's me as well.
That's a PowerPoint presentation, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, do you want a PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
I don't, but it's okay.
Come on, teacher.
I said yes.
I know we don't know.
Oh, no, we
She
do.
doesn't know of a county a PowerPoint presentation.
We may not need it, but the community needs it, and you'd be surprised how many
Educational
people
part.
watch this.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the annual report for calendar year 2024. And the report has information concerning the Planning and Zoning Division, the Building Safety Division, Environmental Programs Division, and then the Permit Services Division. This is a 5-year comparison of activities for the Planning and Zoning section or planning section. The overall level of activity stayed the same since, like last year, 2023.
Yeah.
There is a slight increase from 5 years ago. This is a map that shows the cases that were approved during calendar year 2024. There was 1 major amendment, 3 minor amendments, 19 rezonings, 18 special use permits, 17 variances, 4 final plats, which are 62 in total. So it's a approximately 20% increase from 2023.
Wow.
And the majority of activity takes place in the foothills planning area and then on the mesa. There were 3 text amendments that were approved during calendar year 2024. One was a text amendment concerning sanitary landfills and solid waste facilities. The other one was an update to the bike waste master plan, and the other one was an update to the parking requirements. Projects reviewed by staff. There was an increase of approximately 37% in the amount of projects reviewed by projects reviewed
Wow.
by staff compared to 2023.
Have you increased any of your staff?
No, Mr. Chairman, the level of staffing remains the same. Staff participates in numerous outreach activities throughout the year. We did approximately 6 outreach activities, either at high schools, the neighborhood meetings for the comprehensive plan. One staff member participated in an MCAS helicopter ride back in
Cool.
October. Zoning enforcement section. The numbers for 2024 indicate that there was approximately 25% increase in total complaints received and number of inspections conducted, increased by 67% compared to 2023. There was a decrease of 40% in unresolved or open cases, and then increase in resolved cases, total cases initialized, and unfounded complaints. 63%, 10%, and 56% respectively. This map shows where the zoning activity occurred in 2024. Again, the majority is in the Foothills planning area, and then a cluster in the Northwest Yuma planning area, and then some on the Mesa. Building Safety Division. Numbers show an increase in construction valuation, increase in new commercial construction permits, and an increase in single-family residential permits issued. There was a decrease in average valuation and an increase in total number of inspections conducted,
Mr. Chairman.
comparing it to 2023.
Maggie, in the first quarter, do you see how we're trending, or how are we trending as far as new single-family residential?
If you want to compare it to 2020, there's some.
Well, the number of permits that were issued, we had an
It's
all-time
increased.
low in 2023. We're up again in 2024. So how are we trending in the first quarter?
Craig Sellers, Director of Development Services. The first quarter for 2025 is continuing to trend up. This last month is even significantly higher than some of the previous months so far.
If you had to.
Why is the valuation lower this year than last year?
Hang on one second, Mr.
Oh, I thought you
Mr.
were.
Reyes.
Sorry.
May I get an answer?
Didn't even know you asked.
What do you anticipate, educated guess, based upon the first quarter? What do you think that looks like?
For
The
the
number
rest,
of permits issued this year, based on first quarter.
You said yes or no?
they're going to be slightly lower than last year. But with the trends increasing the way they are, it may increase above what we had last year.
Thank you.
Good for you. I forgot what I was going to ask.
You were asking about the valuations, Mr. Reyes.
Oh, why are the valuations lower this year than this year?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure what that is attributed to. When we
That's
ran the
unusual.
reports, that's what showed up on the reports.
Well, that's good.
No, it isn't.
More affordability.
And then this map again shows where
This is the valuations.
New developments, yep.
the new permit activity took place.
Mostly
Again,
in
the majority of the
foothills.
foothills, then the Mesa, and Northwest Yuma planning area.
Just a comment, Maggie, I know Somerton,
He didn't get into this.
they'll be starting a development there. They're looking at about 400 houses.
Yeah.
About 400 or over 400 houses, and they'll move pretty quick. So that's hopefully towards the
Are
end
they
of the
going to be
year.
affordable?
Define affordable.
That's subjective, Lynn.
I know.
Mr. Chairman, is that in the city of Somerton?
Yeah, citizen.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, but because he was talking about evaluations, they all count. They all go to the county anyways.
Somerton's strange.
Well, I know the foothills, you've got, I think, at least five new subdivisions
Right.
going in out there.
Some of them mixed though. Most of
Hmm?
them. They're mixed. I mean, some of them
Are they all,
Single
Sorry,
family.
Maggie, go ahead.
They're having a
never
discussion.
are. But
mind.
this was a,
The Environmental Programs Division, there was a increase of, just slight increase in fees received, decrease in septic tank inspections, septic tank permits, and septic tank permits finalized compared to 2023. And then a decrease in pumper hauler inspections, increase in sewage collection system construction authorizations, increase in drinking water approvals to construct, and then the division responded to 14 complaints during calendar year 2020, 2024.
Maggie, a question on septic tank inspections. Is that something that we do or?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Environmental Programs Division is charged with inspecting septic systems.
As they're installing them, or you go out there and inspect them, or they called in for an inspection, or how is that work?
Right, whoever is installing it has to call in for inspections throughout the process of putting the system in.
At the initial starting it, okay.
Yes,
Making sure that they're installed correctly. Correct?
correct. And Mr. Chairman, the Permit Services Division continues the implementation of the permitting technology. We are looking possibly into upgrading or changing the permitting system, but we are still working with Central Square Technologies at this point.
Maggie, Mr. Chairman, I know we had this question a while back, Craig, about the permitting software, just because in other regions, the contractors can log in and see exactly where they are in that stage. And that continues to be a comment from the building community.
An issue, yeah.
An issue as far as the time delays, transparency, and our customer service.
And that's our main reason why we're looking at switching out. The community portal is the weak area of this. As we compare costs versus the functionality of it. Most of the remaining functions work well with the software, but we want to make sure that we're providing that service to the public as well.
Does the existing vendor offer a portal where an upgrade would take care of that without having to switch vendors and be retrained? I mean, what are the possibilities? As a business owner, I always look to what I've got first, and if you can meet the needs that before modifying the whole system and throwing the office into chaos, right?
The challenge we've had is we start out with a different portal when we started the process, and they retrofitted us for some security issues. And then we've been anticipating getting an upgrade, and that has not come.
Okay. So we have a projection as to when we might offer something like that, or is that something you need to bring back to us or the budget review team, or how does that proceed?
We have the migration costs for going to a new vendor in the budget. And last thing I heard, that was a recommended cost.
At this point, yes.
And so that's our process right now.
Aside from ag, builders are my next loudest voice. Okay.
And we're listening to them as well. And so those are the things that we're working to address.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing else on the presentation.
Any other questions for Maggie? So.
That's it, Joe.
We're, we need to approve it.
Oh, this one we need to approve?
Yeah.
The report? I'll make a motion, we approve it.
I'll second that.
Didn't get an answer.
There's a motion and a second to approve the annual report for calendar year 2024. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 3, Public Works will present past, present, and future pavement preservation projects.
Mr. Chairman, before Kelly begins, I had the opportunity last week to meet with Karen Peters from ADEQ. She was hosting the new secretary of the EPA, and in talking about our PM10, she said she was going to have some recommendations. Told her I still wanted to jokingly look for rulemaking on that and possibly intend. She laughed about that. She's not quite sure what the EPA was going to demand as far as our PM10 mitigation. And so I would like to ask if you could have that conversation with her, follow up and see what they're going to recommend so that we as a board can take the appropriate steps to move forward.
Her name again?
Karen Peters.
Karen Peters.
And she's the director of EPA, of ADEQ. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Kelly Fricky, Public Works Director. And this morning, our Deputy Director, Santos, will provide an update on our road maintenance efforts that we've been doing. And followed by that presentation, we will welcome up a representative from Roadway Asset Services to present on the findings of their recent pavement study, and they will detail the current condition of our county roads. So Santos will take it.
Good morning.
Good morning, Santos.
Thank you, Kelly. Chairman Porches, members of the board. Yes, so as Kelly mentioned, I just want to give a brief update of where we are with our pavement preservation. I'll start with what we did last year, some of the numbers we've done. So this included some ARPA funds. We had about $3 million of ARPA funds for FY23 and 24 on top of our pavement maintenance budget. So we completed 23 miles of overlays that year, 52 miles of chip seal. I think that's probably the most we've ever done since I've been here 30 years. 33 miles of slurry seal. And of course, all that road work, we have to prep, crack seal and stuff. Gravel road maintenance that year, we maintained 1,400 miles of gravel roads. The gravel road maintenance includes dust control, capping of roads, shoulder maintenance, and various other treatments for gravel road maintenance. But yeah, so like I mentioned, that was a big year, thanks to the ARPA funding that really put us ahead of the game.
Mr. Chairman Santos, do you think that how much of this addressed the damage due to the storms?
Yeah, that was a big. Yeah, that was a lot of that was in the gravel road maintenance. That was a year, we lost all those river crossings. Yeah, those river crossings ran those 2 years. 2 separate times we lost the crossings in the river. So that truck hauling costs and stuff like that, rental trucks and stuff. So that was a big year though. But we did complete a lot of pavement maintenance that year. And it'll show when Zach does the presentation how it reflected on our pavement study. This is our current year. We're sitting at, we're going to do 20 miles of overlay this year. We still have 18 miles or so, I'm sorry, chip seal. We got to do 33 miles of chip seal. We still have 18 miles to do in the spring. They completed the other ones in the fall. Slurry seal, we're going to do 15 miles by the time we're done. They got about 8 miles to go this spring that they're going to start. Chip seal's getting ready to start Wednesday this week. They had a little delay in San Diego. Contractor was in San Diego last week or 2 weeks ago and had all the weather there, so they got delayed for a little bit. But they're going to start here. And slurry seal's going to start probably early May.
Mr. Chairman Santos?
Yep.
I know we had one incident that I was made aware of in my area after that last storm with 24th Street, across the street from the Fun Factory.
Yep.
the runoff there continues to be a challenge. How will we address that permanently? Because I had calls from the ag producers as well as the water district there.
Yeah, it's happened a few times there. It didn't look like a lot of the runoff came from that property up on top. Very minimal, but it's just going down that hill. So we are going to address that. The crews were out there and they called in Blue Stake. We're going to slope that shoulder properly again. Frank Sanchez had some suggestions about maybe putting some brakes with some oversized rock to slow the water down as it flows
Did we
down that
include
hill.
that in this budget? That's the reason for asking it now.
Yeah, it's not going to take a whole lot. It's just it's just maintenance and aggregate. But I'm not sure about a permanent solution. But the main thing is all that stuff runs downhill.
Yeah.
Like I said, it doesn't look like there's much flow coming from that property up on top. So we just need to properly slope that shoulder and then slow the water down as it flows down that hill and try to divert it before it flows into that canal. But we're working with Rex Green and we're going to get something done.
I think that's TNA's and somebody reached out.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Just a concern for.
Yeah, it's happened. It's happened multiple times, and there's a big berm there that over time that we've cleared the road out. There's been a big buildup of that material there, so we're going to haul that berm off and then try to divert that water before
Is
it
it
flows
possible
out.
to increase the depth of the detention area?
So there's a basin on the north side of that road, but most of the runoff is coming from the south side of the road. So there's a property that was purchased down at the bottom there. I'm not sure the gentleman's name, but
He purchased 30 acres.
yeah, it's going to be difficult because we're trying to divert that, and that water's going to divert right into that property. So, but we're trying to slow that water down. So that's why Frank recommended those a little oversized, every 40 to 50
Riprap
feet.
or what?
Riprap, yeah,
Yeah.
riprap, and try to slow that down before it builds up speed. Because Rex and his crew were out there the other day and digging that canal out. It was full of
Aside
material.
from that, just the sand flow onto 24th Street as well was pretty significant.
Yeah. It hadn't happened in a couple of years, but yeah, it happened again.
Good.
Yeah. So where was I?
Sorry.
Yeah. So no, you're fine. So yeah, we still have 8.5 miles to do of slurry seal this year, and then we're projected about 1,600 miles of gravel road maintenance for this year when it's all said and done. These are projections for next year. One big thing you'll notice here is our overlay miles are going to start considering dropping. And that's a testament, I think, of the big jumps we've had in chip seals and slurry seals. We're trying to catch those roads early, so we don't have to overlay that cold mix asphalt. The oil for that is real expensive. So as those overlay miles go down, we'll do more chip seals and try to catch those roads before they get in real bad shape. Put a chip seal on them, and so we don't have to spend so much money trying to rehab those roads. So over the next couple of years, we'd like to keep that overlay miles under 10 is what we're trying to do. But so 7 miles projected next year overlay, 31 miles of chip seal, 18 miles of slurry seal, and then all the crack seal and stuff associated with that. And then we're projecting about 1,700 miles of gravel road maintenance, which is a considerable amount. And that's we had those 2 extra positions that you guys gave us last year, so that's we're trying to keep all those motor graders running as much as possible. So that was a quick a brief of what we're at, where we are, and what we're going to do next year. But now all this work we've done, we did a pavement study. It was budgeted for last year, and we finally got it complete. We're still in the process of uploading some of that data. But I'd like to introduce Zach Thomason from Roadway Asset Services, and he'll do the brief on the pavement study and the results that we're really happy with. So Zach,
Good.
Yep.
Thank you, Santos. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Zach Thomason, Senior Vice President with Roadway Asset Services, and today I get to talk to you for a few minutes about one of my favorite subjects, which is pavement and asset management, and how it relates to you folks here in Yuma County. So let's first start with, let me make sure I got the buttons right. Let's first start with some basic terminology so that we're all on the same page. You folks own and maintain approximately 614 centerline miles of road. What is a centerline mile of road? Imagine yourself walking down the middle of a road, any road, regardless of width, it doesn't matter. Residential road, a major arterial road, it doesn't matter. You walk down the middle of that road, you walk for a mile, that is one centerline mile of road. It does not account for width or area, but that is a measurement term that we use. Now, if we add area to it, so we add width of pavement, how much pavement do you folks own and maintain on a daily basis? That equates to just under 12 million square yards of pavement that you folks maintain on a daily basis. That is enough material to pave a small 2-lane road all the way from here to Denver, Colorado, if you so chose to do so.
Wow.
So it's a lot of pavement. This is a big asset on the books that Public Works is charged with maintaining on a daily basis. Now let's put a financial dollar value to that. If you had to replace all of those roads, meaning rip them up and start over, new base, new surface, that's a $1.4 billion replacement value to replace the paved surfaces. Just the paved surfaces, not all the gravel roads that you folks also own and maintain as well. And we're just talking about the pavement itself. We're not talking about other features of the roadway. We're not talking about signs. We're not talking about drainage or any of those elements. That's just the cost to replace the pavement itself. One of the other things we're going to talk about is condition. So we use something called a Pavement Condition Index, a PCI score. That is a score that ranks the health of a road on a 0 to 100 scale. 0 is absolutely terrible, on its way back to gravel. 100 is a perfectly brand new road that you folks paved yesterday.
Real quickly, just as it pertains to replacement, that's a pretty significant number, but it seems as if no matter where I go, every single government entity has a challenge with its infrastructure and its roads. So how do we compare to other counties our size or other entities our size?
You folks compare very well. So we're going to talk about what the condition of your network looks like. And that's indicative of how much you've invested in your network over time and how much effort is put into the road network over time as well. So in terms of condition and the health of your road network, I'm happy to say you're in a very healthy position, and it shows that you folks have invested over time in your roadway network.
Well, they've done an exceptional job.
They've done an exceptional job. You guys are going to see that in the data that I'll show you here. We're going to talk about preservation. What is preservation? Preservation is lightweight, cost-effective activities that we can do to extend the design life of a roadway at the absolute lowest cost. So it costs the taxpayers the least amount of money to do preservation activities. The catch is that you've got to do these preservation activities on roads that are in good condition before they deteriorate too far and too rapidly. And I'll show you what that looks like. The last thing you're going to hear me say a few times is something we call ASTM D6433. That is simply the rules that we adopted to do the assessment and to calculate the PCI scores. Those rules were originally written by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They are a national standard. We adopt those as a part of the process. And they also define these different terms that you see here, good, satisfactory, and fair. Those are all related to the PCI score ranges that you see here. So while your personal interpretation or definition of what is poor or very poor may be different, we adopted the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers rules and interpretation for each of those. So let's talk about the purpose of pavement management. I kind of already spoiled it a little bit, but the purpose is to extend the life of our roadway network at the absolute lowest cost. So as you can see here, this is the natural degradation of a roadway. It wants nothing more than to degrade, decline, crack, get potholes, get rutting, and all of those different elements. But if we can capture a roadway before it falls off this cliff, so it's a road that's still in good condition, if we can capture it there, we can spend the least amount of dollars in maintaining and owning that roadway over time. It's no different than the cars or trucks that we drive on a daily basis. We change the oil, we flush the coolant, we rotate the tires, not because we enjoy doing so, because we want to maximize the life of that asset. Roads are exactly the same. If we can get in early and we can get in often, we can spend $2 a square yard versus delaying to major rehabilitation, which can cost $30 a square yard or even more total reconstruction at $120 a square yard. So very cost effective, very sound financial management. This is the vehicle that was actually mobilized here to Yuma County. My kids like to call this the Ghostbusters van. It does kind of look like it. It was staged with the challenge of driving every single road here in Yuma County. Every road that you own and maintain this vehicle drove. There's a couple different pieces of equipment on here that I will point out. This big fin on the back end. This is a laser crack measuring system. It's a high-resolution camera with laser line illumination, and its job is to simply measure all the pavement defects and distresses that fall beneath it. So all of the cracking, the rutting, the potholes, the bleeding of the asphalt, all of those elements are measured by this device. And it's literally measuring the width and depth of each crack that falls beneath it. The other thing on top here, this big boom, this is a 5-lens panoramic camera, and it is staged with capturing right-of-way imagery. So we use that as a part of our QC process. The county owns all of this imagery, and it can actually be used to develop inventories for other roadside features. You can develop a full sign inventory using that imagery, a full inventory of your ditches, or in your urban areas of your curb and gutter and sidewalk, or different elements like that. So you can inventory those different roadside features. The last thing here on this big bar on the front end there that is not used to push folks out of the way, that has 3 lasers in it, profilometers. They measure the profile of the road. So basically what we're getting is we're getting a roughness. It's your interpretation or impression of the road condition as you drive. It's what you feel as you drive that particular roadway. This just shows you a few examples of what that imagery looks like. That's the panoramic imagery up top there, and these are the processed views of each image that the county owns as a part of this process. So we took all of that data out of the van. You can see there's that downward image there out of the van, and we processed it using a piece of software called RoadTrip. TRIPS simply stands for Technical Rating Intelligence Program. Its job is to take that image, it starts drawing in all the cracks, it takes the crack measurements themselves, then it starts classifying the different distress types. What type of crack is it? Is it just a longitudinal transverse crack? Is it block cracking? Is it alligator fatigue cracking? Classifies those, and then it calculates that U.S. Army Corps PCI score that I talked about earlier. So it calculates that condition index for every segment of road that you folks maintain. One of the other things that we did as a part of the project, we didn't just drive the fancy equipment on the road, we actually hit the pavement, feet on ground with your crews to go out and validate some of the data. So we took some of the data that was processed, we walked out there with Public Works to make sure everybody was in agreement in the interpretation of that condition data that was captured out in the field as well. And that's something that we do on every project that we perform. So as you'll see here, one of the things that we do, our van, everything is tagged with GPS coordinates, meaning it has a spatial home in your GIS environment. So everything is linked back to your center lines that exist in GIS. So we took your center lines, and that became a part of the process. And you can see all of our van tracks there as the van drives. It's dropping breadcrumbs with all of this different data that we capture in the field. So we've talked about PCI data, and you're kind of getting a sneak peek of that. What you're seeing here is a map of the conditions, kind of hard to see on this particular screen, but it's got the conditions color-coded, kind of like a stoplight. Green is good, red is bad, yellow and orange are the subtle levels in between. The noticeable thing here is you see a lot of green. There's a lot of good roads out there. And that is one very simple thing that we do when we're assessing different networks. We'll look at the map real quick. What do we see? What interpretation do we get? You get a lot of green roads here. So we know we're dealing with a network that has been well maintained.
Question before you move on.
Yes, sir.
When you see that green, I mean, does that imply that the whole road is okay, or does it imply that certain portions of the road are okay?
Fantastic question. I've got a slide that's going to show you there can be a misinterpretation when it comes to the whole road being okay versus portions of it not being okay. And the way we process the data will tell your team in Public Works where those localized failures are. Even if it's shown on the map as green, there may be a localized failure that's present that they could go out and do patchwork on. And we have that data available, and I'll show that to you here in the next slide or two. Excuse me. So we got the BCI data. It's all linked to your GIS center lines. Let's take a look at a graphic here. Actually, this is the particular slide here that'll answer that question. So we process all this data against your GIS segments. So we take all the bits of data, we throw it in a blender, we hit Frappe, and then for this particular segment here, this one that's highlighted in blue, you get a single condition score. I believe this one scored a 49, okay, on this particular street. So that means everything's been averaged across this entire segment. Well, let's kind of flip the script a little bit. Let's say this road was a 75, and it was in pretty good condition, but it had some localized failures. So if I click again, now we're seeing this particular segment turns orange. So the whole segment has an average condition score of a 49, but I want to see where the localized failures are. Where can we patch, do some deep patching, and then do an overlay or something of the sort on that particular road. So if I click again, you can see the colors change. So if everybody saw that, now we can see where we've got localized failures on what was once an entirely orange roadway. We've got green and yellows at each end, but then we've got some localized failures closer to some of these intersections there. So that's the data that can be harnessed within your pavement management system that Public Works has available to them as well. In terms of the condition data itself, this is a classic PCI distribution graph here. So we've got the condition, those same categories that I showed you earlier there on the x-axis. This compares, if we're comparing it to others, this shows very, very well. You have a bell curve that is skewed to the right, and it's skewed to the right very heavily. You have a network average PCI score of a 79. And again, that means if we take all the segments you own and maintain, put them in that blender, frappe it again, your average network score is a 79. That is a phenomenal score. That is a great score. Right now, the average that we see across the country is anywhere between about a 65 and a 75. So you're definitely above average in terms of your average condition numbers.
Good.
One of the other things we look at is the percent of good roads. These are all the roads that score above a PCI score of an 86. Okay, so these roads are in like-new condition. You've done something to them in the last 5 years. Nobody's complaining about them. Typically, we like to see about 25% of the network falling into that category. You folks are in the upper 30 percentile range in terms of the number of roads in that category. That tells me right away, without doing any analysis work, that you have been reinvesting in the road network and doing a lot of great work out there in the network. The other thing we look at is backlog. Backlog's all the big ticket work, the failed, the serious, and the very poor roads that fall below a PCI score of a 40. These are your full reconstruction candidates, meaning we've got nothing to salvage. We need to take the surface off, we need to take the base out. It's full reconstruction, and it's very expensive at that $120 a square yard type rate. Only 2% of your network falls into that backlog category. That is another phenomenal number. So to put that into context a little bit, typically less than 10% is considered ideal from a financial perspective. 12% is what I call the average agency across the country is typically dealing with about 12% of their network in that backlog category. You folks are not. As backlog starts approaching 15 and 20%, that's where we get concerned as consultants because you cannot pump enough capital into the pavement management program to catch up. It snowballs on you faster than you can fund the work as it grows. That just puts it into context. You folks are in a phenomenal shape when it comes to the amount of backlog that you do have out there in the field. In terms of conditions, the last slide here, this is the roughness index. This is another distribution graph. This just simply illustrates the roughness of the roads. Obviously, these are your smooth roads up here. These are your very rough roads here. They are skewed even further to the right, so your roads are actually very smooth. This is very typical of Arizona agencies. Typically, even if an agency like City of Tucson that has a lower pavement condition score, typically our soils allow the roads to still be rather smooth. So we don't have a lot of movement in the pavement that causes roughness. So you have very smooth roads out there that complement your good condition score as well. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Any questions? I talked about the road to Martinez Lake, and that's a little rough.
It's coming along.
Well, that's a new one now.
That's a new one.
Well, thank you. That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Do we pay him?
Yeah. Thank all your people too. Thank all your people for the work they do.
Yeah.
I think, Pete,
You know,
is this the item you want to make a comment? Do you want to come?
I got a couple of questions. How you all doing? Last time I seen you guys was during COVID.
When?
Except we're missing somebody. I don't know who that person is.
Oh, we keep changing those people just to throw you off.
Huh?
We keep changing those people just to throw you off.
Yeah, you were right there, and now you're over here. My name is Pete, Pedro Pablo Ramos Martinez.
Pablo Martin.
Oh, I missed And I remember talking to him about the interstate intro something fund that was going out. But no, I'm here the reason I'm here is to speak on behalf of the people that have complained to me. Okay, because they have been observing all the asphalt that is being used here in Yuma County or Yuma. Okay, and it seems like every 5 months they got to go and do it again. All right, or the cracks comes back, and then the road starts cracking up. Okay. Now there is 5 gravels that can be used. I don't know what kind of gravels you guys use here, okay? But there's 5 gravels that can be used, okay, to better maintain the roads, okay? But it's up to you guys to make the decision. One is a crushed stone, okay? The other one is a dense grade quarry stone, a pea gravel, a river rock, crushed concrete, decomposed granite, drain rock, gravel, okay? Now, on the freeways, okay, which I think we should be focusing on instead of the gray stuff they use here, okay? On the freeway, they use crushed stone aggregate, okay, which is safer, okay, and it provides a stable foundation and drainage, okay. So, I'm here once again, and I'm glad I see you guys again. I'm just here to tell you guys, people have been observing. I use the street. I use the public transportation. I feel the roads, okay? And it's been like that for 7 or 8, 10 years since I've been here. There's something obviously wrong, okay? When that thing just keeps popping up with the same problem, okay? That's all I want to say.
Well, thank you, Pete. We'll definitely take your comments and send, give them to Public Works so they can.
Yeah, tell them.
Thank you.
And the other thing I'm worried about is the water thing.
All right.
They can go in there and poison that stuff.
Thank you, Pete.
By the way, I was an engineer in the Army.
Mr. Chairman, I'd
Thank
like
you for your
to,
service.
I'd like to make a statement on Public Works. No, this isn't about the presentation that Pete came up. I just want to make sure that you guys know this for me. I use the Yuma County maintenance schedule, the fact that you guys are so good at it, as an example to other smaller communities like San Luis and Somerton, so they can start determining what needs the roads have before they become issues. Some of the subdivisions out there are like 40, 50 years old. They need to have this kind of assessment done on the roads. So I always say, look, go find out from the county public works department what they use, because they certainly are doing a good job. I personally will tell you, you certainly are doing a good job, and we appreciate it a lot. When I use that, you guys as an example, I mean it that way. I mean, I know that there's always going to be complaints about the type of pavement, the type of rock we use, whatever. But the bottom line is you guys are keeping up those roads in pretty good shape. And that's what we all emphasize. So thanks a lot for what the job you do is a good job.
Thank you.
No, that was a great presentation, and as I saw the numbers going down, I mean, I know you give. I was trying to find that email, Ian. You've given me at least the amount of money we get from HERF every year, and I know I mean, I've always said let's invest that money in the roads. I mean, seeing that that curve, if we want to, tackle that portion of that curve that's heading down and seeing numbers that are less every year, maybe we need to start doing that. I don't know if that's the plan to.
So as Zach mentioned, that's the plan, is to try to catch those roads before they hit that certain deterioration though. So you don't have to spend so much money. But, it is hard sometimes to sell to the public when you're trying to keep these roads and they're still in real good shape. But you got a road over here that's falling apart, and it's our money's better invested in just keep those roads good before they get that. Those other roads that have gone, that's going to cost too much money. It's better maybe just to do a rehab, have Franken Engineering, do a complete rehab and then start over. But if you start putting in too much money into those roads, the next thing you know, the good roads are starting to get to a point where, it's hard to catch up. But that's the major plan, is to try to catch those roads before they deteriorate. So,
Mr. Chairman, is there any way to incorporate or grind and mill our own rubber?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Take care of our tires.
Yeah, we've looked into that. It's really costly, but the main concern is that the big contractor in Phoenix, that Waste Tire Facility, CRM, they just don't accept shreds from anybody. They meet certain specs, so it doesn't make sense for us.
Do you have an idea of what it would cost us to process?
Well, looking at some of these big tire shredders and stuff, I mean, they can just the equipment alone, you're running up, about $1 million, and then the manpower to do it. So it's a huge investment. But
I'll shred a few.
yeah. But we're making some changes there in Waste Tire, so hopefully we'll start seeing a turnaround on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Santos. All right. Moving on to item number 4, adopt resolution number 2025-10.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Kelly Fricky, Public Works Department. And I'm joined today by Rob Kane, our Public Works Manager. And we're here today to discuss, to set a price at which surplus public works capital assets may be sold without public auction to government entities and charitable, social and nonprofit organizations, and to request the board's approval to formalize this in a resolution. The Fleet Management Committee has carefully evaluated this matter and recommends that the full reserve amount as a set price, and that any price below the set price would require board approval. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Rob Kane, who is our fleet manager and the chairman of the Fleet Management Committee, who will explain how that committee came to the decision to make that recommendation of the reserve price and address any questions or concerns you have.
Kelly, how many requests do we have right now for conveyance?
We don't have any, I'm sorry, excuse me. Rob Kane, Fleet Manager, Yuma County. Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Currently, we don't have any pending. We've had several over the last 2 auctions from City of San Luis and I believe Town of Welton.
May I? As the one that suggested that to happen, I did not think there would be a minimum. I thought that was going to be decided but we can't give anybody anything. So I thought that this would be a legal kind of question. Okay, how much can you actually turn it over for? As long as it's more than $1. I thought that was the direction that we had. Now, if you want to set a reserve price, if you want to set a bottom price, that means that there's going to have to be an appraisal of some kind.
Currently we're setting and this mainly concerns vehicles, fleet vehicles. So what we do is when we go to auction, we set a reserve price and we use the bare minimum blue book value of every vehicle to make sure that the county is getting at least the blue book value for vehicles that go to auction. So these would be offered to these entities prior to the public auction. So we took this to the Fleet Committee, and the recommendation from the Fleet Committee was that they also pay the reserve price because this money goes back into the fleet program to offset the cost of that program.
I guess that's my concern there.
to me, that defeats the purpose. I mean, you know, when you want to offer those vehicles for use, it's because the county has its life cycle. And some of the vehicles are still usable, especially in public works where you have like heavy equipment type vehicles. Setting a reserve amount means treating them the same as you treat anyone, because that's what you start the bid at, the reserve amount. So to me, that doesn't add any value to something. It just makes it so that the county gets the minimum stuff. So if you're looking at making the county whole, that would be the preference, that you set a value on it. But if you're looking to help other communities, in this case, it's either San Luis or Somerton or Welton, entities that can still have use for those vehicles, but they don't have such a tight schedule as we have of use. So I particularly don't like that, but I can understand legal asking for that, something like that, because legal would say, look, we can't give anything away. That was the basis of everything. But if you offer them to nonprofits or governments before you go out to bid, maybe you can get some of them to still get some use out of some of the equipment. And I wasn't just talking about vehicles, obviously. I was talking about computers, stuff that we have a life cycle on, refrigerators. I know it was a big deal for one of the former supervisors. Refrigerators was a big deal. I don't know why, but, you know, so if you want us to set a minimum, who determines what minimum is? Blue Book?
The fleet staff determines the minimum by researching by VIN number and also the condition of the vehicle. But it's always set to the lowest Blue Book value of the vehicle.
See, anyone can do that.
This is the way I see it, as a, you know, when at the county, with what Supervisor Reyes is talking about, vehicles that we're gonna sell, you know, put it on auction. But if a community that we know the money is not a lot that they get, this is the way I see it, as within the county and within the communities that we have, to help each other. By setting a price or going by what the county attorney says, we're double taxing people. Because what we purchased, it's their tax money. We use their tax money from either Welton, Somerton, San Luis, or even Yuma. And we are, if you look at it, honestly, we're double taxing the people when we sell it, because they're gonna buy it with the tax money that they're charging their community. And they already paid the county. So instead of helping and working together with the county by setting prices, we're not gonna give them away, but we're helping a community that can't, maybe they can't afford to buy new, they're gonna go out and buy used. But starting at Blue Book value, or setting a price that just a little bit lower than what we're gonna sell them for, it's not like they buy, you know, they're not gonna buy the whole fleet. They're gonna buy certain vehicles. I mean, I see it as a helping each other. We talk so much about the region, you know, this with this, all the cities, but I don't see how we're helping them by doing this. I mean, like I said, it's unless they wanted 10 vehicles, well, or 20, they say, well, you know, we'll give you, you know, we can help you with so many, but that's my take on that.
May I ask, Mr. Chairman, what are we talking about, 3, 4, 5 vehicles a year?
No, there's no request right now.
There's no request right now, that's what I'm saying.
Traditionally, it's been in that five range over the course of a particular year.
It may be that we haven't set a price for them either, too. I mean, this may work in a way to say, look, we're gonna put this out to bid. The minimum bid price would be $2,000. You want it before it goes out to bid. That would be the only advantage you're actually giving the other cities. You let them know ahead of time what you're gonna put it up for auction for. That doesn't seem to me like what I had in mind, but it serves, I mean, you don't get that many requests every year, 4 or 5. So if you decided to do that, I wouldn't have a problem with it. And now as a policy, it's a different story, because then you're forced to ask for it. You're forced to say that. And that means that anybody else can get them for basically the same price. So I would entertain that kind of a policy with a discount, you know, like a 10%, 20% discount if you're a municipality or something, or 50%. Because I know what Blue Book is. A lot of people don't go through that. But if you go through Blue Book, it will tell you private dealer, it gives you the price. But it gives you a bottom line that is standard throughout the nation. I just don't think that gives the municipalities or any other nonprofit a leg up on everybody else. And that's what I was searching for. So to me, setting a policy that says that it would be blue minus 50%, 30% or something would be advantageous for them to exercise that. And that way we have a policy that you guys can follow. They will know what they will pay, and that would be okay for me. Because you don't get those requests, I think, in part because people do not know what they're going to request and how much they're going to pay for it. This way, there's a policy, a buying policy. I just don't think Blue Book is the basis for almost anything that supports what I wanted to do, which was to help all the other communities. The double taxation is an issue, but not a big issue to me. It's in as much as getting those entities to have access to that equipment before we go out to bid and sell it to everybody for the same, beginning with the same amount. So coming up with a percentage discount would be fine with me. That would be left to, I guess, the board if it want to, but there has to be some sort of advantage that we give them this community to get that equipment. To me.
So what kind of discount would you propose then?
I don't know, it depends on Blue Book, I guess, but Blue Book minus 20%, 30%, or something that allows those communities to claim that they're being assisted to get them, not that it's the same for everybody. I wish they could do that with the state land department, excuse me, doesn't follow, because they always ask for appraisals, but there's no way to appraise this without finding some method to do it, which in this case is the Blue Book. So to me, if you come up with a Blue Book sale minus 30, 40%, that would make it so that those communities that will understand they're not getting something for $1, which is I think the last time I talked about it. But you're also not getting it for the price anybody can. Okay, that would be my take on it. If you want a motion, I can make it. Get it over with. So,
We would like a
you understand the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
My motion would be that we go ahead and set the price for those vehicles that we're offering to nonprofits or other governmental entities at Blue Book minus 30% discount. Okay, that would be my motion.
Mr. Chairman, Tony, because we don't have that many requests, we could determine what the discount might be.
Per vehicle.
Per vehicle at the time that they make the request, instead of just making it a blanket.
They have to come to us.
Yeah, but that's okay. If they only have 5 a year.
If the policy is going to be that it comes to us, then it's a different story because we can set it every time we have it. But they need a policy because I think what's
I would say
happening.
start at a Blue Book and then if there's extenuating or special circumstances, it gives us the ability to offer some latitude, right?
Well, see that's my particular problem. Having to come here to ask for that, it's a process. So it takes a long time for us to get in the agenda. You guys need to know ahead of time how much to appraise them, and then you have to wait until we can take action.
If somebody wants one of our brand new graders that we've decided, 30%
We don't get
is
rid of
pretty
brand new
significant.
graders.
So these would only be vehicles that would be declared surplus.
Surplus vehicle.
I know.
I'll go with the chairman if I could, but I think that's a little bit overkill. But I mean, I understand. We used to think of them as just giving the municipalities an opportunity ahead of time to get a hold of those vehicles before they go out to bid.
I feel like this is splitting the difference, Tony, but it's not limiting us to just the 30%. If they need additional assistance, then we can afford them that opportunity.
All right, okay, I'll go with that. We will set up a policy that determines that every time you get a request from any of the entities to deal with a sale, that you come to the board for the final discount, okay?
Starting a Blue Book and then.
Start them a Blue Book so that they know, everybody knows what they. Then if any municipalities, advise the municipalities that they can actually come to the board and ask for a different price, okay?
Thank you. I'll second that.
The motion was to go ahead and set it a Blue Book, and if any entities wanted to come over, they can come over to the Board of Supervisors and explain their special circumstances under which they will purchase that vehicle. Okay, thank you.
And that way, Mr. Chairman can be more magnanimous.
So it's gonna, the motion was to adopt resolution 2025-10 with modification.
With the caveat.
Of the surplus vehicles for entities to come back to us. Okay, there's a
Members of the board, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clear.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Here's mud.
Here's mine, that's right.
Moving on to planning and zoning agenda, a few legal descriptions of property sites for the rezoning cases are available for public review at the Yuma County Board of Supervisors office. Moving on to expedited rezoning and public hearings, these items will be open as a group for public hearing and acted upon by one motion to adopt the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission, except for any item that is removed by the board by a board member for separate consideration. The item will be discussed and acted upon separately following action on expedited items. And I have item number 1, rezoning case number 24-23, and item number 2, special use permit case number 25-02. Is there any questions, or do we want?
I would.
I wouldn't.
Well, we're gonna, I'll open it up to the public, open up the public hearing, and I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve items 1 and 2. Item 1 being the rezoning case, number 24-23, and special use permit case number 25-02.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second to expedite rezoning calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Go forth and conquer.
Thank you, Myra.
Sorry you had to sit here so long, Myra.
Are these gonna show you open?
No,
No,
I
so I
learned a
can
lot.
tell.
Thanks.
It's okay.
What's his name, Aaron?
No, which was?
Yeah, that's for the.
That was for the work, yeah, we just, that's canceled. I mean, is he, if he's here?
Yeah, he's still.
Then we probably have to,
You want to tell?
yeah.
Item, where's Alejandro? Do we have another?
We have one
Yeah,
more.
oh, we have one more?
We have a regular zoning hearing.
Where is it? Okay, yeah, regular public hearing items. Item number 1, rezoning case number 25-01.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you also open item number 2?
I now go ahead and open item number 2,
25-03,
special
right?
use permit case number 25-03.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would like, Jesus Carrillo, Senior Planner, would you like a presentation?
Anybody needs a presentation?
I don't need a presentation.
No?
Give it in front of put it in front of the public.
I just want to bring two things to your attention. And we received one letter in opposition from 2 neighbors within 300-foot radius. Same thing for the special use permit request. And properties highlighted in red are the person against this proposal.
That gets to majority. Did I reach?
No.
This is
And MCA had no comments on.
this yours?
And MCAS has no comment?
I don't have a problem with that.
Any other questions?
Oh, yes, no questions for you.
I'll open up the public hearing. Seeing anybody from the public? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for a motion.
Chairman, I move that we approve item number 2501 and 2503.
I'll second.
Rezoning case 2501 and
Case 2503.
there's a motion and a second to
Yes.
Yeah, that's a motion.
to
I made the
approve
motion.
rezoning case number 2501. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Need another motion for special.
I
use
move
permit?
we approve special use permit 2503.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to approve special use permit case number 25-03. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
All right.
Moving on to item discussion regarding legislative issues. Alejandro.
Chairman, members of the board, Alejandro Figueroa, Yuma County Economic Development and Intergovernmental Affairs. So we've had 71 days of legislative session now. We're getting close.
Man, it seems like it's been forever. Go ahead.
I know. It seems longer than that. For sure. More than 1,800 bills being introduced. 2 of them have been signed and 1 has been vetoed. So this week marks the final opportunity for bills to be heard in committees, with the exception of the appropriations committees. Appropriations are allowed an additional week, typically reserved for remaining budget-related bills and potential strike-everything amendments aimed at reviving measures that did not advance earlier in the process. Following this week, most legislative activity will shift towards caucus and floor sessions to move bills forward alongside ongoing closed-door budget negotiations. Speaking of the budget, I'll move on to the March fiscal highlights from the Joint Legislative Budget Committee. The JLBC's March fiscal highlights report shows general fund collections for February 2025 totaled $749.6 million, which is a 10.3% decrease from February of last year.
Wow.
However, after adjusting for a timing issue with urban revenue sharing, base revenue grew 2.4% per year over year, resulting in an $8 million forecast gain. Sales tax collections are up 3.4% year to date and $5.6 million above forecast. Individual income tax revenues reached $103.6 million in February, up 11.1% year to date and $43 million over forecast. As far as corporate income tax revenue goes, it was up $11.8 million, which is 10.5% year to date, with a $5.5 million forecast gain. Lastly, Access enrollment dropped to 2 million members, which is down 0.4% from February and 8.9% from last year. Now to some of the bills being discussed at the legislature that definitely impact Yuma County. HB 2562, which is the Somerton Bridge replacement. The bill passed the Senate Appropriations Committee last week, and will now sit idle while they negotiate the fiscal year 26 budget. The bridge, just to make sure people are aware, is located over the West Main Canal on Somerton Avenue between County 10th and County 11th Street. Yuma County will be required to budget $200,000 of local monies in fiscal year 2026 for the bridge replacement design.
He's not used to hear this.
Moving along to HCR 2002 voting centers precinct voting.
Oh, no.
It's a ballot referral that caps precincts at 1,000 voters, eliminates voting centers, and requires precincts only, and limits on-site early voting. The bill passed the Senate Judiciary and Elections Committee and awaits Senate Cal and Senate third read before being placed on the 2026 November ballot. Virgin Morrison, who's ACO's executive director, Senate President Peterson is considering an amendment that would increase the precinct cap to 5,000 and allow on-site early voting.
Mr. Chairman, Alejandro, what's the average size of our precinct here? Do you know?
The Chairman Vice Lines, no, I do not. I'm sorry. I wouldn't have that information handy, but I can get back to you on that.
I think that it's, if you're looking for an average size, it's going to be tough because there's some small precincts and there's some large precincts. Like some places got like 15,000 in one and like 2,000 in another.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to come up with an average that works.
Well,
but,
I think.
No, I'm just trying to think about the overall ramifications of trying.
Well, I think with CSA and ACO, if this does go to ballot, we need to start this year getting the word out, one, what it's going to cost the counties and the taxpayers to do something like this.
And two, whether it will really.
So they understand the cost behind
It's
it.
easy. It's $1 million in equipment if it stays at 1,000. It's 654 employees, according to what according to what Robin said, and it's over 100,000 for sites. Just in Yuma County.
We don't have sites available in all the precincts.
No, we don't.
We don't have workers
That would
available.
be
for it.
100 and, what was that, they said last time, 113 sites?
14, Mr. Chairman, locations. If
In
we go-
Somerton?
Here in Yuma County.
Oh, in Yuma County.
How many, 114?
Yep.
Do you think we could get an amendment to where it was counties less than 500,000 or something like that, where they've adjusted some of the other laws? Right?
I know that would exempt us for a while.
That would exempt us for a while.
I know,
But
but if it goes
I
to
think that we
ballot-
ought to look to our legislators to offer some type of amendment around that for an exclusion, because that will decimate. If they're not gonna provide a vehicle to complete all of the requirements, that will decimate the county. We will not be able to balance our budget.
Won't have they?
On election year.
That opens the door for private contractors to, hey, I'll lease you this space and it's gonna be for
$500 a square foot.
Yeah, honestly, it's gonna be, they're gonna set the price and we're gonna have to pay for it.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, yes, that would be a good idea. And I think going on the private sector locations, it has to comply with some requirements. So that would even.
But we can't even comply with those requirements as they are now if we had to put a precinct, I mean, if we had to put voting locations every precinct, there's no way to fulfill that.
Yes, Yuma County, CSA, and ACO have signed an opposition to this bill, and they're working with the sponsor. ACO and CSA are working with the sponsor on potential amendments.
That's a horrible bill.
SCR 1008, it's another bill that may interest you. A bill sent directly to the ballot after passing through the legislature that would require the Board of Supervisors to receive a 2/3 supermajority vote to increase an assessment, tax, or fee. On March 19, the bill received a due-pass recommendation in the House Ways and Means Committee. The SCR will proceed through the Rules Committee before consideration and leadership meeting. A final floor session will occur where the bill must go for a vote before it can head to the ballot. Yuma County and CSA have signed in opposition to this one.
It's
It's a
insulting.
lot of power in one person.
Tough enough.
Anyway.
What is considered an assessment? What is a tax or fee? I mean, a fee could be the application for like a building permit.
A liquor license, yeah.
It seems very broad, Supervisor Reyes. Yes, indeed.
A liquor licenses, we recommend to the liquor department. I don't think we charge a fee for that. Or maybe charge a fee for administrative thing, but what I'm talking about more like a permit, like a building permit. So if we wanted to increase the building permit, we'd have to get a supermajority vote.
And if I may, the argument from CSA is that the legislature doesn't hold themselves to that same principle of 2/3. So that's the argument from county.
Yeah, but, hold on.
It continues to be an assault on our ability to make decisions for the county. That's the worst part about all this is that they seem to not trust you. So when you get in trouble because your assessment isn't high enough and you have to change it, you can't. I mean, you go through this process where just a couple of people here in this board can hold it forever.
Yep, exactly. That's what I'm saying. One person has a whole lot of power.
On HB 2103, it appropriation Colorado River Compact Defense. It basically appropriates $1 million to Arizona Department of Water Resources for Colorado River legal defense. We have not taken a position on this bill, so I don't know if the board will entertain a position on it.
I would like to, Mr. Chairman, just discuss this briefly,
Mhm.
in that we may not get an appointment to this lower basin
Really?
from someone who represents the lower basin because of conflicts. It has to go through Senator Mike Lee in Utah. And so we may not get.
But this is local, isn't it? State?
That's Colorado River Legal Defense. And
Yeah.
so Arizona Department of Water Resources and how they work with the CRUA, Colorado River
Compact.
Compact. I mean, it all relates.
But when you mentioned Mike Lee, I thought it was the Senate.
Senate Mike Lee on the federal level, the appointment for the manager of this lower district would go through him.
Oh,
And it's doubtful that we
In
would get
Arizona.
somebody in Arizona. Yeah. So anything that we can do to put ourselves in a defensive position is something I would recommend.
yeah.
I would say we don't oppose this one.
I stay out
Take a
of, yeah,
position
stay out of this one.
and hope everything works out for you.
No, for you.
Yeah, it's us. We're the ones at the end of the line, all of us.
We're gonna have to call Casey back. Go ahead.
And moving on to the federal side, on March 14, the U.S. Senate passed a full-year Continuing Appropriations and Extensions Act of 2025 by a vote of 54 to 46, following the House passage on March 11th. The CR extends federal funding through the end of fiscal year 2025, which is September 30th of this year, avoiding a government shutdown after Congress failed to reach a final agreement on fiscal year 2025 spending levels. The CR maintains fiscal year 2024 funding levels, allowing for a $1.6 trillion in discretionary spending, $893 billion for defense, which is up $6 billion from last year, and $708 billion for non-defense,
15 million for elections.
which is down $13 billion, largely due to the removal of earmarks. Some of the key inclusions for counties, it maintains $20.5 billion for FEMA's Disaster Relief Fund, $7.6 billion for the WIC nutrition program, $50 million for election security grants. So the CR expires on September 30th. As I mentioned before, Congress is urged to finalize fiscal year 2026 appropriations by then to avoid disruption. And the President's budget request will soon begin the fiscal year 2026 process. I would conclude my presentation to the board, Mr. Chairman. If you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Questions for Alejandro?
Well, I do have one. On the international scene, is there anything new we need to let people know about the crossings? I mean, have they changed policies? Is it gonna be, what happened in Algodones is just sort of like a sample of what can happen at any time.
At any time.
But do we need any warnings? So we need to send our people through the TV, through our...
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Reyes, I had a meeting with the Consul of Mexico here in Yuma, and also briefly met with some immigration officials from Mexico while they met with the consul. And the idea is that it is a pilot program that Mexico is now implementing west to east. So they started in Tijuana, and they're not actually enforcing it in Sonora just yet, on the port of entry in Sonora. The dynamics are very unique, I would say. They have National Guard at the port of entry. They have Hacienda, which is the IRS equivalent to us. And they have, so Foreign Affairs, Mexican Foreign Affairs Ministry does not want to get involved just yet. They have no clear direction on this as to how and when it will be implemented. They don't have the resources, they don't have the manpower, nor the infrastructure to enforce it throughout the entire U.S.-Mexico border. At this point in time, San Luis Colorado, they're only asking randomly or to those people crossing on foot, pedestrians, and not people crossing on vehicles. National Guards handle the vehicles, immigration handles pedestrians for the most part.
However, they did state, and I read that they were going to enforce a pass for people going to El Golfo for
spring break.
If you stay more than 7 days,
yeah.
If you're gonna stay more, then you need that, yeah. If you're gonna stay more than 7 days.
Are there any changes to the free zone? I mean, there used to be a sort of like a buffer zone. You could go up to a certain point and then without any documentation and then...
The information I received, Supervisor Reyes, from the council is that the law has always been in the books. They just never enforced it.
Okay, so the answer is we don't know.
The answer is we still have no confirmation of how and where.
We'll let the council deal with it.
Throw it up wherever it lands.
It's a little shocking for most people to go out, you know, who goes out and just get some teeth done, or some work in their teeth or something, to find out that you have to have a permit to get through. That's kind of weird, but.
It's been in the books.
I know, and a lot of stuff has been in the books that is going to get implemented simply because of the relationship damage that's been done through all this tariff stuff. But I guess we live in a brave new world that we have to adapt to.
All right. Well, thank you, Alejandro.
Alejandro.
A work session?
So,
There's a couple of people.
I guess I'd like to remind you between us and lunch, okay?
Aaron, you're good. So, on the work session.
You still have it?
No, what,
No, I had several people reach out to me from the ag industry, and they had the opportunity to visit with, and I want to give kudos to Maggie for spending, and Craig for spending lots of time with those who had questions regarding our zoning issues and agriculture here in Yuma. They called me late Friday and wanted the opportunity to, they realized that we enforce state statutes, the majority of what we've got on the books, and that they were going to appeal to our elected state legislators before they came back to us. So thank you for spending so much time and answering their questions.
I will take the opportunity to say I don't agree with all those exemptions. It's a situation that it's like a home rule situation. I mean, but in this state, specifically in this state, if anything is related to agriculture.
Do we want to open it up for discussion?
Well, it's there. It's a work session, so I don't want to talk about it too much.
So we'll get further
More comments.
So we can bring it back so at a future date. So as we,
Yeah, we'll wait for direction to bring it back.
From those who
Right now.
requested it, they canceled. And we can address it later, Mr. Chairman.
all right. Current events.
Okay. I met with Myra from the Crossroads Mission and another constituent concerning indigent burials. I was in Phoenix on Thursday for a prep and then a LPC meeting on Friday. I attended what is STAFFDEL, but it was from Yuma 50. It was a dinner meeting and it had all the representatives and from our legislature, our federal congressmen and our senators. I attended that and it concerned the military bases and what the needs are at the military bases, both YPG and MCAS. And it was, very informative, and we talked about housing per diem and how we need to increase the housing per diem for our military, as well as all other kinds of issues, Power Road, you name it. They took back a lot of information regarding what we need for our military bases here. I attended a meeting with another constituent concerning water, and then I was in Phoenix, went up to Phoenix for a prep for our board meeting, and then I had a board meeting, CSA Board of Directors meetings on Thursday, the 20th. And then I attended the ACO, which is the Arizona Association of County board meeting on Friday, and here I am today, so
Welcome.
there we go.
Mr. Chairman, I had the opportunity to visit with several people from the agricultural industry regarding multiple concerns. That was last Tuesday and Wednesday. Wednesday, had the opportunity to visit with a company who does not currently reside in Yuma, but they have several pipelines and conveyance systems, and they were looking to expand in this area.
Good.
And also maybe do some cogen with energy producers, regardless of who they are. They were going to go visit with IID and some of the other stakeholders in the area regarding an overall concept. It's a pretty significant company. They've got about 1,300 employees. They're based out of Denver. Then Wednesday, I was invited by the U.S. AG's office to attend a speech by President Trump in the Department of Justice. So I flew out Thursday and came home midnight Friday. Had about a 20, had about a 24-hour stay. Had the opportunity to visit with FBI Director Kash Patel at the event, and invited him to come out to Yuma to see what he could see here. Participated in the air show on Saturday. Immediately upon returning.
Have you slept yet?
I have not slept yet. And then had some water meetings in Phoenix, along with the Water Infrastructure and Finance Authority. Met with Karen Peters from the ADEQ regarding our PM10 challenges. She was then leaving to go and talk to Secretary Lee Zeldin. So I'm looking for a download from that meeting. I will probably look for an opportunity to visit with Secretary Zeldin here very soon. I was invited to go back to DC 2nd and 3rd, but I've declined that trip. And we'll look for an opportunity later in April or later in April, beginning of May, to visit with ADEQ, Secretary, what's his secretary? Lee Zeldin is that's who Karen Peters works with anyway. So, yeah.
Whoever he is.
On behalf of the county, PM10, to make that go away.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's my goal.
Also met with Myra at the Crossroads Mission. Attended the Wayzata meeting with the U of A president, vice president were here, which was really a positive thing. They're really interested in attending with Ian. Attended a LEDA tour and briefing over at the college. Had my community meeting this last Saturday. And if you're talking to the ADEQ person, please encourage her to do something with the tires and the problems we have out here that just get ignored.
She is well aware of our tire challenge. She says we are among 4 or 5 counties in the state that have that same challenge. And she's aware that there's only one processor, and she said that she was going to look at some of the comments. And I had a meeting with her in January regarding the tires.
Well, I mean, just the violations. There's one that's out in East County. He's been, the state attorney general's looking at them, but there's no movement whatsoever.
She was aware of it. I think that she had her own particular challenge as far as being able to be more than acting as a director of ADEQ. And so now I think that we can move forward
A little better.
a little bit better.
I've been on a commission most of a couple of weeks, so I don't have much to report other than the fact that I will be in Washington April the 2nd and the 3rd.
Oh, good.
Hopefully with Senator Kelly and Senator Gallegos and get a better sense of what's going on. I hope. I don't think they're in the loop as much, but all the stuff we read, all the stuff, it's just sort of twisted depending who you hear it from. So, from the horse's mouth.
You attended the GYD CDE.
You went to it?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
We're
looking to modify that time.
Yeah. So yeah, they're going to vote on that again for what day, Thursday or a Wednesday.
It's not the 3rd Thursday.
Yeah. So, Ian.
Thank you, Chairman. Just been a lot of budget meetings the last few weeks. Many budget meetings, but we're making good progress.
Good.
Look forward to getting you a recommended budget soon. Joined Supervisor Simmons for that meeting with the Senior Vice President from U of A and other community stakeholders. I watched the final presentation of our ULEAD cohorts. This is the first cohort that came through that program. It was very impressive, and got to celebrate with them taking initiative to learn and grow in their roles.
Mr. Chairman, Ian, while you were there with U of A, did they discuss the commitment that they were going to make to the industry here?
How would you characterize that, Supervisor Simmons? I think it was pretty general. It was not a specific commitment, but he
Okay.
seemed definitely on board with making forward progress.
Yeah,
More
talking
so
with
than-
some of the other farmers that were there, they're already seeing a change in U of A's attitude towards you.
It was pretty significant kind of overall message that they would invest millions into the local agricultural community with backup in research and development.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Met with Ratika Dewan of AWC, and just happy to report that the county has closed on the 2-acre property over at County 15th Street, Avenue A, for the future site of the Cooperative Extension Building. And I wanted to thank Deputy County Administrator Josh Scott for his diligence in seeing that through, along with some help
Thank
from
you.
engineering and finance. So thank you. That's it.
All right. Meeting adjourned.
All
With
right.
9 minutes to spare.